Chapter 680. The Chasing Fishing Boat. Chapter 680. The Chasing Fishing Boat. Soon, a bunch of countries started communications with Luoyu in hopes of getting their forgiveness. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Luoyu was very easy to talk to and only asked them to pay 30 billion Luoyu dollars as compensation, and it would be fine. Although that was still a huge amount, Luoyu was willing to give them a loan. Moreover, to a country, 30 billion Luoyu dollars was an acceptable amount. Once one country paid it, the other countries too felt that this much was nothing. If Luoyu fired any missile onto their land, they would end up losing more than 30 billion. So what if all the countries in the world could join together to annihilate Luoyu? Their losses would be gone forever. Other than the US, almost all 30 countries which participated in the second invasion agreed to Luoyu's compensation plan. The Union didn't expect that while it was still coming up with a plan, most of the consequences of the war would have already been resolved through private negotiation. Seeing this, everyone knew that Luoyu wasn't really crazy and didn't really want a third world war. They just wanted money. As for the US, it was impossible to mediate anything with just some money. Its current president became another tragedy, as although he wasn't impeached by the people, he did have to resign after the second failed war. The US had to cope with mass protests and riots once again. Some people disagreed with the second invasion of Luoyu, while others asked for a third one. Negotiations between Luoyu and the new US president, President Darcy, soon began. Darcy didn't want to meddle around with the issue, as he had just come to power and wanted to recover the US economy and its stability. So the two reached a consensus. The US would compensate Luoyu 200 billion Luoyu dollars for the losses caused by the war, 50 billion Luoyu dollars for the negative impact it had had on their civilians' mental health, and another 100 billion to get back all the captives. Altogether, the US compensated Luoyu with 350 billion Luoyu dollars. With such a huge compensation, even if spread over multiple payments, the US sunk into a huge economic downward spiral. Furthermore, the US had actually lost much more than that. Their Pacific fleet had been crippled, and the losses to their ground and air forces were immeasurable. Although they could recover with time, the Pacific was a place where power mattered. Now that their Pacific fleet had been 80% destroyed in the war, the UK, France, and even Japan started advancing their fleets all over the Pacific. Perhaps this was America's biggest loss. Because of Luoyu's power, the Southeast Asian Alliance could do nothing about it either, and so Luoyu started stationing power at the Malacca Strait. Sister Yin didn't feel that watching Emo forge artifacts was boring at all. In fact, she was dazed by it. She didn't understand how Emo could pull out a sword and colorful stone out of nowhere. Then suddenly, Emo shot out fire from his palm, and the sword floated in the air. She cultivated ancient martial arts? Sure, but what Emo was doing now exceeded the limits of ancient martial arts. She really wanted to know what Emo must have gone through. Because he had gotten stronger, and thanks to the 5-element stone, Emo managed to refine a damaged top-grade flying sword into an upper top-grade flying sword. Although it hadn't reached the extreme grade, that wasn't due to the materials, but due to the fact that Emo wasn't a blacksmith and that his power was a little low. The flying sword made a crisp howl, and Emo got up with satisfaction. Sister Yin said one word when Emo suddenly pulled her behind him. Sister Yin was shook and also realized how hungry she was. She didn't even know how long she had been watching Emo refine the weapon. The room darkened, and Emo questioned, "Who are you?" Hearing this, Sister Yin realized that 2 more people had appeared in the room. If Emo hadn't said anything, though, she wouldn't have noticed them at all, even though they were standing under the window. "You have no right to ask who we are. Did you take the 3 stones from Mengkue?" the tall and skinny person suddenly asked, his voice sounding very cold. Sister Yin subconsciously grabbed Emo's clothes as she began to worry. She was already at the yellow level middle stage, yet she didn't even know when those 2 had come in. No wonder Emo said she was too weak. Emo spread his spirit sense out and saw that one of them was East Asian, while the other guy was white. One of them was also a mutant. Based on the energy waves, he was at least a level 3 mutant. But level 3 was way too puny in front of Emo, who didn't understand how they had come chasing him so quickly. As Emo spread his spirit sense out even further, he didn't find Mengkue. It seemed the man was dead. Soon, Emo found a small fishing boat on the side of the cruiser, and he figured they must have come from there. A white stone suddenly appeared in Yemo's hand as he asked, "Do you mean this stone? How many did you take?" The black shadowy figure went on to ask, and a gun appeared in its hand. Sister Yin saw the gun under the moonlight and nervously pulled Yemo back, saying, "They have guns." Yemo patted her, signaling her to not worry, and replied to the men, "I took 3, and I have quite a few more of these myself, you know?" Hearing this, the man put his hand back down. Yemo sneered. If it wasn't for him wanting to find out how they knew about the spirit stones, he would have already killed them both. "Where did you get the extra stones?" "AMD, where are they now?" the tall, skinny man asked. "I'm a businessman, so if you take me to see your boss, perhaps I will trade them with him," Yemo said. Yemo being so calm made the two suspicious. They didn't know what the reason for Yemo staying so calm was, but it was better for them to take him to their boss for now. "Okay, follow us." The two men opened the door and said. The reason why Yemo didn't just kill the two and go to their boss himself was because he didn't want to alert him. Sister Yin wanted to attack, seeing that the two were going to take Yemo away, but Yemo signaled her not to worry. Sister Yin seemed to understand what Yemo was doing, and she had seen Yemo's means, so she believed that he had a reason for playing along. Yemo gave her a bracelet and said, "Wear this, I will be back soon." Although she was really very hungry, she wasn't really of the mind to go eat anything after seeing Yemo get taken away by two strangers. The cruiser having let those people come up from the fishing boat meant that they were connected, but Yemo wasn't worried about Sister Yin. He had scanned the entire ship, and there was no one who could threaten her. When Yemo came to the fishing boat, he realized that it wasn't a mere fishing boat, but a modified one for military use. There were about 30 to 40 people on board, all armed with guns. The two took Yemo to a simple room, where they pointed at Yemo and said, "The thing is on him, we saw it. However, he says he still has a lot of them and wants to do business, so I brought him over." Then, the two positioned themselves by the door to block Yemo's exit path. There were 4 people in the room, and when the yellow-skinned middle-aged man among them heard this, he laughed. Chapter 681. Cruel and Decisive. Chapter 681. Cruel and Decisive. Yemo didn't seem to notice the man laughing. He scanned the 4 people and said, "Answer 2 of my questions and I will give you the stones." The moment he had walked inside, he had already seen that there were at least 3 cameras in the room. They were the latest high-tech cameras. Shah had showed them to him before. However, he was sure that even if someone watched the screen, they wouldn't be able to see his face clearly. The man suddenly stopped laughing. He studied Yemo before lighting up a cigarette and saying, "I really want to know why you're so calm. And how did you get the other stones? Those that didn't come from Mingkue?" Yemo frowned. "So, you didn't call me here to do business? If you're willing to answer my questions, I'll tell you." This middle-aged man was the strongest. He was at black level middle stage, whereas the other 3 men weren't even yellow level. Although he could capture them and control their minds, it was more complicated with stronger people. Moreover, a slight mistake could result in the destruction of their souls, which would mean the loss of a source of information. The middle-aged man also had a wooden box on his table. As Yemo spoke, his spirit sense scanned the box. When he saw the 2 dark things in it, he was immediately overjoyed. At the same time, in the main meeting room of Northern Sand, a man suddenly got up and said in coarse voice, "Blow up 043 boat now." Everyone looked at the man in shock. They really didn't understand. Their boat had already found the lost cheese stones in Canada, and the recording showed that the man had gone onto the ship. Had he gone mad? Why would they blow up the ship now? Even ignoring the cheese stones matter, killing their own men was crazy. The coarse-voiced man quickly said, "I'm not crazy. The man who got on the ship looks blurry, but I can tell from his voice that he's definitely Yemo. He's the Yemo we tried to blow up at the Icehelm Island. He's not dead. If we don't blow up the ship now, he will know where we get our cheese stones from and use the boat to trace it back to our base. Hence, if you don't blow it up in 3 seconds, I'm requesting to leave here." The leading man also said with a low voice, "I trust Brother Dongfang. Blow up ship 043 immediately." On the boat, everyone looked at Yemo in contempt. The middle-aged man smiled. He thought that Yemo was a goat ready for slaughter. Perhaps that young man had a few moves, so he thought he could do whatever he wanted there. The middle-aged man stood up and got a few steps closer to Yemo as he said in a sardonic tone, "Of course, I'm in a good mood today. I can tell you where they come from. You'll be very happy after hearing me." Yemo kept his spirit sense on the boat. Despite the fact that he didn't think these people were a threat to him, after experiencing this much, he wouldn't underestimate anyone. Suddenly, he got a sense of uneasiness in his heart. He could sense danger. He even caught some motion at the bottom of the ship. It was the same kind of motion he had perceived on the Icehelm Island. Without thinking, Yemo grabbed the wooden box and darted out of the window. "You're trying to run away." The black level man reacted rapidly. He tried to grab Yemo. He had even taken his box when escaping, but he was much slower. Yemo had already disappeared. Before he could react, the fishing boat exploded into flames, turning the water nearby red. Yemo stood in the air with a calm face. He knew that they were Northern Sands people. They were cruel, and not only to their enemies, but to their own men too. What a pity. If they had been a few minutes slower, he would have been able to find out from the middle-aged man where the spirit stones came from. If he had been lucky, he would have even been able to know where Northern Sand's base was. He was sure that the people attacking him were from Northern Sand. The reason they had blown up the ship was because they had recognized him from the cameras. Still, they shouldn't have been able to see him since he had covered his face with chi, so it must have been due to his voice. Not many people in Northern Sand had heard his voice before. Yemo was beginning to suspect Dongfang Tang more and more. The explosion made a huge sound and covered half of the sky with fire. The people from the cruiser saw this and all stood on the deck watching the flames. Sister Yin had seen where Yemo was going to. It had only been a while and the ship was burning. She felt as if her heart had been struck by a hammer. Her body was cold and her hands were shaking. Was Yemo gone like that? "Sister Yin." Yemo's voice sounded. Sister Yin saw Yemo standing beside her. She immediately ran into his arms and started crying. But soon, she kept a distance and wiped her eyes. "You scared me just now. I thought you were Dash." Yemo felt a little guilty that he always did things without considering other people's feelings. In order to stop her from thinking about that more, Yemo took her to the restaurant. Sister Yin hadn't eaten for a long time. She was quite hungry and forgot to ask Yemo about the artifact he was forging, but it was only temporary. After eating something, Sister Yin quickly remembered it. She thought about how Yemo could take things out nowhere and put them away. "Tell me, do you have the ability to hide something and other people wouldn't know?" Sister Yin finally asked. Yemo rubbed his head. "Yes, Sister Yadash, give it to me." Sister Yin reached out her hand. Looking at Yemo's innocent look, she immediately said, "Stop pretending. Give me the diary." Yemo took it and gave it to her helplessly. "Sister Yin, I only read the first part. I didn't get time to read the rest." "You're really stingy. You shouldn't ask to return something you already gave away." Sister Yin ignored his words. She also strangely didn't ask about anything that happened on the boat or about Yemo's special abilities. After she had the diary back, she seemed a lot less talkative. Chapter 682. Dongfang Wang has a secret. Chapter 682. Dongfang Wang has a secret. The two didn't talk anymore after that and just quietly ate. Sister Yin didn't seem to want to talk, while Yemo didn't know what to say. On their way back to the room, since Yemo didn't want to keep staying on the boat right when Luo Yu's war just ended, and he wished to immediately go back, he broke the silence by asking, "Sister Yin, why don't you pack your things and then let's go back together?" Sister Yin looked at Yemo in shock for a while before asking, "The ship is still at sea. How do you want to go back? Or do you mean you want to take me back to my previous room?" Her face didn't seem too happy. Yemo quickly waved his hand and said, "No, Sister Yin, didn't you see me make the flying sword yourself? I made that to fly on it. I can fly you back." 10 minutes later, Sister Yin was tightly holding onto Yemo's arm while standing on the flying sword. She still couldn't believe that Yemo could fly. It was too absurd. Seeing that Sister Yin wasn't saying anything, Yemo could only say, "Sister Yin, you will come with me to Luo Yu, right?" "Huh." Sister Yin just realized that Yemo was about to take her to Luo Yu. She quickly stopped Yimo and said, "Take me to Beijing first. I still need to take care of some things. Once I'm done, I can go to you." Although Yimo really wanted to just go straight to Luoyu, due to Sister Yan's request, he still took her to Beijing. She might be at the yellow level middle stage, but Yimo still wasn't too assured. Seeing Sister Yin so eager to go, he said, "Sister Yin, how about I go take care of your stuff with you, and then we go to Luoyu together?" At this moment, Sister Yin finally calmed down. She helped Yimo tidy his not that untidy collar and said calmly, "I want to go alone. Don't worry about me. You've already given me the pill. I will try to improve my power. Eventually, I will go find you. Are Jia and Si still okay?" "They're doing very well in Luoyu. Sister Yin, you can see for yourself if you just come to Luoyu." Yimo still wanted Sister Yin to just go to Luoyu together with him. Sister Yan's eyes seemingly got a bit misty. Only she knew that other than her having business to take care of, she also simply didn't want to stay with Yimo. She didn't answer Yimo's question and shook her head instead, before saying after a while, "When I remember my mirror and sky blue blanket which I left behind, to be honest, I kind of regret it." Yimo took out a folded blanket and a mirror and asked, "Sister Yin, do you mean these?" "Huh, you took them with you for me?" Sister Yin felt the blanket in joy and couldn't help but embrace Yimo in tears. After a long while, Sister Yin suddenly pushed Yimo away, took out the diary and put it in Yimo's hands. "I'm going. So here is the diary. Help me keep the blanket and mirror, please, and read the diary after a few years." Then, she turned and left, disappearing out of Yimo's sight. As that happened, Yimo felt like he'd lost something. Who knew when he would see her next? Perhaps he never would. After Sister Yin walked off, Yimo noticed Beijing University with his spirit sense. Who would have thought he was so close to Beijing University? Yimo put the things in his hands away. Although he wanted to know what was in the diary, he still decided to respect Sister Yan's wish and wait a few years. Since he was there, Yimo suddenly wanted to go check up on that Dongfang Wang. He suspected that Dongfang Tang was behind all the recent matters, so not only was he going to try to find out more about Dongfang Tang, but also about his whereabouts. Yimo walked around the university for a long time, scanning with his spirit sense, but he saw no signs of Dongfang Wang. He did see that Qingguang, Fuli, and even that Enjiqi, but not Dongfang Wang. Even though Dongfang Wang had said that he had no relations with his two brothers, and that he even hated them, Yimo still didn't feel comfortable about this Dongfang Wang. He had to admit that all three brothers were extremely smart and calculating. Yimo suddenly thought, if Dongfang Tang joined Northern Sand and this was all his doing, then it could be said that both Dongfang Shi and Dongfang Tang have joined powerful military factions. Is this related to Shi Tang? Dongfang Wang wasn't around, so Yimo walked into the dining hall. Qingguang, Fuli, and Enjiqi were eating there. Yimo went to ask them about Dongfang Wang. Qingguang was sitting with Fuli, and although there was no one next to Enjiqi, there were a lot of guys sitting in her proximity. Yimo was no idiot and could easily tell that all those guys were totally not eating, but trying to attract Enjiqi's attention instead. Because Qingguang was sitting with Fuli and Enjiqi in the same row, Yimo sat down opposite to Enjiqi. As those guys saw someone dared to sit opposite to Enjiqi, they all glared at Yimo. They didn't even dare sit in that spot. Who did this guy think he was? "It's you?" When Enjiqi saw Yimo, she almost dropped her bowl of noodles. Qingguang and Fuli also looked at Yimo in shock. They didn't know why Yimo was there. "It's me, and I'd like to ask you about someone. Where did that Dongfang Wang go? How come I can't find him?" Yimo had only seen them once, so he didn't want to waste time. Qingguang answered, "After we returned together, Dongfang Wang went to his place and told me to apply for a leave for him. He never came back ever since." "He doesn't live in the dorms?" Yimo asked strangely. Did this Dongfang Wang guess that he would be coming to look for him, so he left? Qingguang nodded. "Indeed, he lives around the Yin River. His family is there." Dongfang Wang's family lives in Beijing? Yimo was even more surprised. According to Dongfang Wang last time, his home was in a place called Shitang. Why would they live in Beijing? Also, Yimo had been to the Yin River area more than once, and he knew that that was the Beijing slum area. "That I don't know. I just know that he lives with his mother near the Yin River." His mother is from Beijing, Chengguang replied. Can you tell me where Dongfang Wang's home is? Yimo felt more and more that this Dongfang Wang wasn't simple. If he really had predicted that Yimo would be coming to find him, then it was too shocking. Before Chengguang could reply, Enjichi suddenly said, I can take you there. Okay, thank you, Yimo said. Seeing this, Fuli muttered strangely. What's up with Jichi? Why would she offer to take a stranger to the Yin River? Also, when has she ever been to Dongfang Wang's home? How come I don't know? Chengguang shook his head and didn't understand either. Could you tell me what it is you do, and why you would be at Antarctica that day? Wait, that's not the main point. How could you only wear so little clothes? Couldn't you feel the cold? Enjichi immediately asked. Yimo didn't want to answer, but since Enjichi had offered to help him, he could only say, I already told you last time that I'm a mountain climber. Looking at Enjichi's unbelieving eyes, Yimo could only say, if you don't believe me, what can I do? Anyway, do you often go to Dongfang Wang's home? How much do you know about him? Can you tell me more about him? Enjichi looked at Yimo speechlessly. Yimo hadn't really answered a single of her questions, yet he asked her many questions instead. Before I answer you, at least tell me what your name is. Enjichi felt that Yimo was no ordinary person after thinking through what happened that day. I'm Yimo. Yimo didn't want to ask Enjichi anything anymore, and just wanted her to bring him to Dongfang Wang's home. Enjichi looked satisfiedly at Yimo and said, Okay, then I'll call you Brother Yi. I've never been to Dongfang Wang's house. After a pause, she continued, but I do know a secret of his. Chapter 683, Scary Net Controller. Chapter 683, Scary Net Controller. Yimo couldn't help to doubt Enjichi's words. They weren't close at all. While Dongfang Wang was her classmate, why would she tell him his secrets? Seeing Yimo's expression, Enjichi bit her lips and said, I'm sure you're no ordinary person, but I know Dongfang Wang isn't either. Although I've only seen you twice, I trust you more. Didn't you want to come help us that time because there had been an avalanche? So, I trust you're a good person. Yimo wouldn't believe her just based on her words, but he continued, What do you want to tell me? Enjichi chose her words carefully before saying, I know you might not believe me, but Dongfang Wang's is one of best computers masters in the world, maybe the best or the second best. Yimo was a bit interested now. They lived in a technological civilization, and Yixing was at its peak. If it hadn't been for Yixing, Luo Yu wouldn't have even lasted that long. Enjichi continued, Dongfang Wang was at most a computer lover in our colleague's eyes, simply just an amateur. He has this habit of carrying a computer no matter where he goes. Meanwhile, I'm the genius of computers in Beijing University. There's no one that doesn't know me. I'm not famous for being pretty, but for being the best at computers. Enjichi breathed at ease and then slowed down her pace. I also thought I was the best in Beijing University, and even the teachers often asked me questions. So I didn't expect someone to be better than me. My capabilities are like a child's game compared to his. Yimo suddenly felt uneasy. He stopped walking and asked, Is this person Dongfang Wang? Enjichi laughed at herself. Yes, I believe so. But I suspect Dongfang Wang because of what happened last year. Last year, the Swiss bank suddenly lost 500 million pounds. The whole world was discussing this, but that was when Luo Yu was fighting their first war with the Union Army. Hence, it didn't get as much attention. Yimo frowned. She seemed to be insinuating that this had something to do with Dongfang Wang. However, no matter how good he was, he wouldn't have been able to do that. If the bank's money was that easily transferred away, it would have closed. Enjichi continued, I started suspecting Dongfang Wang after the managing teacher of the computer department died. The teacher died? Yimo asked strangely. Enjichi nodded, yes, a week after the Swiss bank's incident happened. The teacher for some reason committed suicide in his house. I didn't suspect Dongfang Wang at first, but one picture completely changed my mind. That man was my computing teacher, and because I progressed quite quickly, he often asked for my advice. I respected him a lot. He had a good job and a loving wife. Why would someone like him commit suicide? So, I went to his blog and looked around. I saw a photo that clearly explained a lot. The photo was taken when he went to the student dorms. At the time, Dongfang Wang was also staying at that dorm. He had been on his computer. The content on the computer screen also appeared in it. My teacher really liked the photo at the time, so he posted it on his blog. What did you see? Guillermo asked. Njichi said slowly, I saw an article written in English on Dongfang Wang's screen. Some parts seemed to be about the Swiss banks incident, so I used special means to enlarge and clear the image. It was indeed the Swiss bank announcing that they had lost 500 million pounds. I thought Dongfang Wang had been reading news online after it happened, but after seeing the date, I knew that wasn't the case. And you just suspect him due to this? Guillermo looked strangely at Njichi. Njichi shook her head. No, because I thought of another thing. Before all of this happened, the teacher took us out to eat once, and Dongfang Wang was there. At the time, I remembered a student asking, could there be a computer master that could use a zombie computer as a springboard and commit a crime, but have no one able to find out where the zombie computer? At the time, I said, even if they found the zombie computer, it wouldn't matter. Moreover, who would care about a zombie computer? The teacher replied, no matter how good you are, if you use a computer as a zombie computer, people can find it. Of course, a computer master probably has defense mechanisms on his computer. Also, even if there was a computer master 100 times better than him, if the master used his computer as a zombie computer, then there would be traces. After the teacher said this, I saw clear contempt in Dongfang Wang's eyes. Although it was very quick, I still caught a glimpse of it. However, because his computer skills were average, I didn't put much thought into it. But now that I think of it, he might have used the teacher's computer as a zombie computer, but the teacher didn't know anything about it. Guillermo knew what Njichi meant, so he asked, that teacher meant that he could tell if someone used his computer as a zombie computer, right? Njichi nodded, approving his skills at Guillermo, and said, yes, that's what he meant at the time. When I realized this, I closed my teacher's blog and started to investigate Dongfang Wang. I did things very carefully. I bought a mouth mask, makeup, and a new computer. I even made sure my net card was anonymous. But when I used the computer to enter my teacher's blog again, the picture had been deleted. As soon as I went inside, the screen froze and it got blocked. Whoever did this quickly entered my computer and was going to hack open the webcam. Luckily, I hadn't installed the driver for the cam, so he wasn't able to open it. I'm sure that it took him less than 5 minutes to hack my computer after entering my teacher's blog. It was so fast, not even I could do that. After he hacked me, I immediately exited the website and switched to another anonymous net card. What next? Guillermo asked. Njichi was actually sweating. She said, I went at once to use the school's computer room server because the teacher was responsible for it. Just in case, I covered the camera with something. However, right after I entered the server, I didn't get to see anything before I was hacked again. 3 minutes had barely passed. The computer camera driver was installed and he had opened the camera. It was too fast. I've never seen someone this strong. Njichi was sweating more and was breathing heavily. I was rather confident in my computer skills before. Yet still, before I had even reached his computer, he had already gone through everything in mine. I immediately knew that I was a far cry from this person. I've been a hacker before, but I feel like this person isn't a hacker. He's a net controller. Out of fear, I threw my new computer away. But 4 days after, another suicide case happened. A student had committed suicide in the dorms. The official statement was that he had been too addicted to games, but the computer on the newspaper report was familiar. It was the one I threw out. Is Dongfang Wang that good? Are you sure it's him? Don't you think you're lacking in evidence? Guillermo asked again. Chapter 684, Pitiful Motive. Chapter 684, Pitiful Motive. Njichi nodded seriously. Yes, I'm sure it's him now. Other than that, I still have a strong feeling that it is him. I feel like he suspects me. Since he's close to Chengguang, we're also familiar, but he would have never actively tried to socialize with us. However, ever since the teacher died, he often hangs out with us. He also wanted to join us to Antarctica this time. Guillermo fell into silence. He hadn't expected Dongfang Wang's computer skills to be this good. If he hacked Luo Yu's net, the consequences would be unfathomable. Although he had told Sui Huahua to warn Yixing last time, he wasn't too sure about it. The good thing was that Luo Yu's military base and its governmental network wasn't connected to the outside net. After a while, Njichi said, I'm sure that this matter is related to Dongfang Wang because once at the dining hall, he suddenly asked me what I thought about the Swiss bank robbery. I was shook at the time, but I was prepared, so I said casually, it's not my country's money, I don't care. What was he like at the time? Yemo suddenly asked. Njichi said after thinking for a while. He just smiled and said he wanted to take me out for dinner. Because I was afraid of him, I agreed. Luckily, after dinner, he just sent me back and didn't say much. Just the thought of it makes me shiver. I really don't want to be around him, but I am still acting like nothing is going on when he's with Chengguang and the others. Yemo smiled. Njichi, I believe you, but I don't understand why Dongfang Wang didn't kill you. What? Njichi looked at Yemo in confusion. Yemo said plainly, if I'm not wrong, Dongfang Wang has been long suspecting you. He killed that student who found your notebook to give you a warning. What? Njichi's mouth was wide open in shock. She thought she had done very well hiding it and Dongfang Wang had acted normal. How could he tell? Yemo said, although I don't know why he didn't kill you, I'm sure that he knows you suspect him. I'm more and more interested in Dongfang Wang now. This is the Yin River, but you've never been to his house. How are you going to find him? Yemo waved his hand and asked. Wait, there's one more thing I haven't told you, Njichi suddenly said. Oh, what is it? Yemo asked. Njichi said, when we went to Antarctica, last time I met you, the first one to start climbing was Dongfang Wang. He was carrying a blue bag up the mountain. After he came down, the blue bag was gone and we never heard him talk about what happened. I even suspect that he put the bag up there intentionally. Yemo nodded. He decided to go again to that mountain after he returned to Luoyu. Njichi thought of something and suddenly felt uneasy. Yemo could feel her tension and worry. Are you worried that Dongfang Wang will come back for you? Yemo asked. Njichi nodded. Although I don't think that he doubts me, you're also right. What if he does? Before Yemo could reply to her, his spirit sense scanned a normal brick house. Inside there were 2 bedrooms and in one of the rooms, Yemo found a big bag. He had seen it before. It was the one Dongfang Wang had brought to Antarctica. Dongfang Wang and his mom weren't at home, and the room was very clean. Yemo took Njichi into Dongfang Wang's room, and as soon as he stepped in, his spirit sense scanned a small camera in the room. Dongfang Wang was no ordinary person indeed. No matter what his relationship with his 2 brothers was, he was very ambitious. He liked the feeling of having everything under his control. When Njichi walked into this room, she felt uneasy again. Just when she was about to say that Dongfang Wang wasn't there and suggest to leave, a voice suddenly sounded in the room. You wouldn't let me go indeed. I know who you are, and I have no intentions of becoming your enemy. I can't beat you. But Njichi, you actually brought someone else into my room. Dongfang Wang was very calm in the beginning, but when he spoke to Njichi, his tone was very emotional. Njichi got goosebumps. She looked around subconsciously and moved closer to Yemo. Yemo didn't speak. He realized that Dongfang Wang had indeed figured out that he would be coming for him and had hidden. It seemed that also he knew who he was. He was a dangerous man. A dangerous guy who had predicted everything. What's me bringing Brother Yi here got to do with you? Njichi replied shakily. Njichi, I know you suspect me, but I didn't kill you. I thought you had good feelings towards me since I like you, and you never hated me. That day I invited you to dinner. You didn't even think twice about it before agreeing. Whenever I was with Chengguang and the others, you never avoided me. Why did you have to bring someone to my home today? Why? Why? Dongfang Wang's voice was shaking. It was full of disappointment. Yemo just realized that Njichi was Dongfang Wang's dream woman. Dongfang Wang was so smart, yet he couldn't see through this. If he had better EQ, he would know that Njichi was scared of him, not that she liked him. Hearing Dongfang Wang's confession, Njichi shivered. She hadn't expected that maniac to fall in love with her. Yemo was right. He really knew about everything. Yemo patted her shoulder and said, You don't need to be afraid of this sort of maniac. As though she felt empowered by Yemo's words, she suddenly pointed at the speaker and cursed, Dongfang Wang, you scum. You have such great computer skills. I believe you could have done it without the teacher finding out, but you still killed him. Do you still dare say you didn't kill him? Yes, I killed him, but not because of what you think. I did use his computer as a zombie computer, but he didn't know about it at all. No one could know. His computer is just one of the countless zombie computers I use. I didn't kill him because of that, but because I love you. And he was just an ugly frog. He spent all day asking you this and that. I've wanted to kill him for a long time. I knew you suspected me, and that's right, you're correct. I didn't kill you because I love you. Although I've never confessed my feelings, I want you to be a queen. Dongfang Wang continued. His tone was getting more and more excited. It was as though he wanted to show his heart to Enjichi. Don't make me throw up. Enjichi cursed and just thought of something. She suddenly hugged Yemo and kissed him on the lips. Yemo wanted to say something, but Enjichi let go of Yemo and said, I like you. Please don't reject me. There was a furious roar on the speaker. Yemo even heard something getting smashed. He couldn't help to shake his head. Dongfang Wang really liked Enjichi, but her move completely crushed him. This way, Dongfang Wang would only hate him more. Chapter 685. Fish Jumping Through the Dragon Gate. Chapter 685. Fish Jumping Through the Dragon Gate. Yemo waved his hand and destroyed the camera. Then, he made a gesture with his hand to Enjichi. Let's go. Suddenly, there was a furious roar. Yi, if you dare touch her, I will destroy your corpse into 1,000,000 pieces and vanish your land from existence. Yemo stopped walking and sneered. Dongfang Wang, I wasn't planning to kill you before, but now you're dead for sure. No one can threaten me. No one from the Dongfang family can threaten me. I could kill Dongfang Shi and I can also kill you, no matter where you hide. That voice fell silent for a while before saying slowly, as long as you don't touch Shichi, I swear I won't do anything against you. What Dongfang Tang is doing has nothing to do with me. Haha. Yemo laughed. You have no right to tell me which girl I can or cannot touch. You overestimate yourself. No matter how strong your net is, one day I will be able to easily grab you and kill you. Meanwhile, Enjichi was furious on the side. She yelled, Dongfang Wang, who do you think you are? How can you be so shameless? I will sleep with Brother Yi tonight. What are you going to do about it? You scum. Animal. Arg! He roared loudly again. Yemo sneered and walked out of the room. Sorry, Brother Yi. Enjichi felt very bad. She couldn't believe something like this had happened. Someone had made her his woman without her knowing or agreeing. Yemo waved his hand. He was speechless about finding out the truth about Dongfang Wang too. I didn't ask for your permission. That man is so incredibly disgusting. I'm scared just thinking about it now. He can kill innocent people so casually. In his eyes, people's lives are worth nothing. Enjichi was in a very bad mood. She thought about the 2 suicides that had taken place in the university. They all seemed to be people she was related to. Now she knew they were all connected to Dongfang Wang. Luckily, Chen Guang already had a girlfriend who he was together with every day. Otherwise, Chen Guang might have been killed too. Yemo waved his hand trying to downplay it. It's fine. It's not like I lost anything. Enjichi's young soft lips with aroma hadn't been unpleasant. As for sleeping together tonight, Yemo didn't take it seriously. Enjichi blushed and said, I don't dare stay in Beijing anymore. I'm going to leave to my grandfather's place tomorrow. I told my sister that I would go to her place next month, but after this happened, I need to leave as quickly as possible. Brother Yi, you need to watch out with Dongfang Wang too. What's your sister called? Yemo suddenly asked. Enjichi smiled. Her name is Ning. She's in Luoyu right now. So it was someone he knew. He had gotten the Yin Yang 8 trigram fisheye from Ning. According to her, her grandfather had given it to her. This meant that Enjichi's grandfather was also Ning's. Yemo really wanted to visit that old man. The reason he hadn't mentioned it to Ning was because he really didn't like the feeling she gave him. Although Ning was prettier than her sister, Yemo felt that Enjichi was much easier to talk to than her. Yemo suddenly smiled. Can I stay for a while at your house? Huh. Enjichi blushed. After a long while she said stuttering, Brother Yi, sorry about before. Don't misunderstand. I just wanted to anger Dongfang Wang. That's why I Yemo knew what she meant and waved his hand. Enjichi, you're mistaken. I seem to know your grandpa, so I want to visit him. Moreover, I'm already married. You're thinking too much. Even after hearing this, Enjichi was still a little nervous, but she felt a lot more at ease. Her grandfather was called Enzaishan. Enjichi's parents had been doing business in Korea, so they had left their daughters in Beijing. Seeing his granddaughter come back, Enzaishan was very surprised. Although she had a lot of friends, she had never brought back a boyfriend. And Qianbei, sorry for disturbing you. Yimo's greeting made Enzaishan feel weird. Enjichi almost laughed out loud. He was missing 2 pieces of the yin-yang fish. Before Enzaishan asked anything, Yimo took out the eye he had gotten from a Ning and asked, "And Qianbei, I came for this? The fish eye? So you were the person who made the deal with my granddaughter?" Enzaishan grabbed the fish eye and asked in shock. Yimo nodded, "Yes, and Qianbei, I have a yin-yang 8-trigram fish. I have 5 pieces for now, and it seems to be missing 2 fish tails. So I came here to ask you where you got the eye from." "Huh, brother Yi, you know my sister?" Enjichi had been a little scared before about Yimo coming to her house, but she finally understood why. Yimo took out the pieces he had collected. Enzaishan picked them up and looked at them carefully for a long while before putting them down. He sighed. "So that's it. I didn't think one day someone would be able to gather this many pieces." Enzaishan sounded like he knew about it. Yimo quickly got up and saluted with his fist. "And Qianbei, please tell Wanbei what this is." Enzaishan signaled Yimo to sit down and then said, "Decades ago, an old friend of mine gave me the fish eye. His name is Zhang Zhihui. He's from the Zhang family. However, he left the Zhang family to seek Dao, and I haven't seen him for decades." Yimo felt a little sad. Zhang Zihui had died doing things for him, but he didn't even know who killed him. And Zaishan continued, "More than 50 years ago, we were still in the army. After he completed a mission and returned, he gave me the fish and a top-grade jade. Something happened after that mission, and he left the army." Wait a second. And Zaishan went into the room and took the jade out for Yimo to see. He scanned the jade. Yimo saw a small inscription that read, "When 7 pieces are formed, a fish jumps through the dragon gate." And Zaishan saw that Yimo wasn't speaking and said, "Here it says, when 7 pieces are formed, fish jumps through the dragon gate. I don't know what that means, but seeing you bring 5 pieces here, there must be 7 pieces to it. So indeed, you are missing 2 pieces." He then said, "I have no use for this jade. I'll give it to you." Yimo had been thinking about how he was going to ask for it, but Zaishan had offered first to give it to him. He immediately got up and saluted with his fist, then "Thank you." "And Qianbei, I still wish to ask another question. Did Zhang Qianbei ever tell you where he found this?" And Zaishan shook his head. "I don't know either. The mission he was working on was confidential. I never met him again afterwards." Yimo took out for Zaishan 2 bracelets he had made and said, "These are 2 magic artifact bracelets. They can keep evil away from you while keeping you healthy. I don't have much to give you, so I can only offer you this." And Zaishan was very happy with what Yimo had given him, so he got up to thank him. And Jichi really liked the bracelet too. She didn't care about keeping evil away, but the bracelet was really pretty. Although Yimo really wanted to go to Luoyu right away, and Zaishan was too hospitable. Hence, he decided to stay that night. He spent the night studying the pieces. In the middle of the night, just when he was about to go to bed, he felt a bleak chi. Chapter 686. Shi Tang Wang. Chapter 686. Shi Tang Wang. Feeling this bleak chi, Yimo immediately sent his spirit sense out. What he saw shocked him. He saw 2 paper men floating over the wall, slowly approaching him. Yimo knew that paper couldn't walk itself, though, and his spirit sense immediately scanned that the 2 paper men were indeed not walking by themselves. Instead, they were being controlled by 2 ghosts, while those 2 ghosts were being controlled by a human. The reason why the 2 paper men were suitable for ghosts to attach themselves to them was because they seemed to contain some sort of formation. Yimo had honestly never seen low-level formations like that before. Dongfang Wang knew that Yimo was with Enjichi since the morning, and Enjichi had said that she would be sleeping with him that night. In his rage, Dongfang Wang was most likely set on killing Yimo. Thus, these two ghosts must be his doing. Yimo didn't expect Dongfang Wang to have such methods. Who was that guy really? Before the two papermen got to the window, Yimo walked out and went to stand in the yard. Seeing this, the two papermen dazed around for a moment, as though being surprised at their target not being afraid of ghosts and coming out. But soon, they went on to charge at Yimo with those scary faces of theirs. Yimo sneered, two mere ghosts dared attack him. They underestimated him too much. He stood there without moving, while the faint moonlight shone on the two papermen and made them seem quite frightening. The two papermen soon floated in front of Yimo, and he sensed the bleak chi get stronger and stronger. Normal people wouldn't be able to resist such bleak chi usually. The people attacked by these ghosts would be scared easily, and if they became scared, it would make it easy for the ghosts to invade their victim's body. But Yimo was no ordinary person, and when he flung out a fireball, one of the papermen was instantaneously burned to dust. There was a sharp shriek, and as the other paperman realized that Yimo was strong, he turned to run. Yimo didn't stop the second paperman. He quickly followed after it and left the infamily house. If Dongfang Wang had made it, then he only needed to follow it to find Dongfang Wang. And Jiqi had been unable to fall asleep due to her worries, so when she heard the sharp shriek, she immediately opened her curtains to look at the yard. There was nothing there. A few moments later, her grandpa came out, and seeing her grandpa standing at the door of the yard, she also came out. "Grandpa, what was that shriek? It sounded so bleak and eerie." And Jiqi asked. The only reason why she wasn't overly scared was because she was with her grandpa. And Zaishan looked into the yard and said, "Go inside first and check if Mystery is all right." It didn't take long for Jiqi to rush back out. "Grandpa, Brother Yi isn't in his room. He didn't open when I knocked, so I pushed the door open and went in, and he wasn't there." And Zaishan nodded. "I asked Ning Ning, and apparently he's no simple man. He is highly influential even in the upper levels of Beijing. How do you know him?" And Jiqi quickly told her grandpa how they had met Yimo in Antarctica. "Okay, Chi-Chi, go to bed for now. Someone like Mr. Yi will be fine for sure." And Zaishan himself, however, couldn't go to sleep anymore. The paper man was like the wind and traveled very rapidly. Yimo kept following the paper man, and it didn't float too far away. After traveling about 4 kilometers, it went into a hotel and into a room. Yimo followed right after. Inside the room was an old man in his 60s who seemed very bony, and his face had black cheese circulating all over it. Yimo knew that this old man was just an ordinary person and had never cultivated ancient martial arts, but the bleak and death-like chi around him was due to long-term contact with ghosts. When the old man saw that only one of his paper man floated in, he immediately slammed the table and yelled, "Who dared kill my pet ghost? Swear that if I don't make you my new pet ghost, I'm an animal." Yimo's figure suddenly appeared in the room, and he said coldly, "I burned your first paper man, and now I'll burn this one too. What will you do about it?" Then, Yimo burned the other paper man to ashes as well, accompanied by another sharp shriek. This made the old man take a few steps back as he stared at Yimo in shock. You can turn invisible and shoot fireballs? Why you dash?" Yimo ignored the old man's shock and asked, "Dongfang Wang sent you, right? Just tell me where he is. Don't even think about it." The old man knew that he was no match for his opponent at all. His greatest weapons were his ghosts, yet his ghosts were nothing to this man. How was he going to fight him? But it really was impossible for him to betray Dongfang Wang, so the old man decided to commit suicide. However, Yimo noticed that the old man's eyes didn't seem right, so he immediately pointed at the man's forehead. Immediately, the old man's eyes became dreamy. Yimo breathed a sigh of relief. He had almost let the old man commit suicide. How was Dongfang Wang able to make someone like this man do work for him and even be willing to die for him? "What is your name? Where do you come from?" Yimo started his interrogation. "Dongfang Chong. I came from Shitang." 11 Tang again. Yimo wanted to know where this place was more and more. "Where is Shitang? And who is Dongfang Wang to you?" Yimo asked. "Shitang is in Shitang, and Dongfang Wang is the young master. I want to know Shitang's general area and how Dongfang Wang is your young master. Shitang is in the southwest direction, while Dongfang Wang is the 19th Shitang King dash. A hint of struggle appeared in the old man's eyes, but Yemo was deep in thought and didn't notice it. Where is Dongfang Wang now? Yemo asked again, but then black blood started seeping out of the man's mouth, and it was clear that he had committed suicide. Yemo looked at the black smoke and putrid smell and knew that the old man hadn't committed suicide through poison, but that his death was caused by a secret technique. The smell was so bad that Yemo burned the old man away before the process had even ended. What shook Yemo the most was how the old man had woken up from his technique. His mental power had to have been very strong. Ordinary yellow levels wouldn't even be able to struggle when he used his mind control. Yet this old man had woken up from it. In the house there was nothing but a wooden crate, and the house looked very old. Yemo sent his spirit sense inside the crate and saw a bunch of charms, low-level magic artifacts, and even a few skulls. Other than that, there were some books, and as Yemo gave them a look, he saw that they were all about raising ghosts. Yemo wasn't interested in all that and burned it all away. When Yemo came back to the family house, he knew that someone had been in his room from the aroma that was left behind. It was probably Njichi. The second morning, as Yemo was thinking about what to say when they would ask him questions, neither of his two hosts mentioned anything about last night. Yemo felt strange, but he wouldn't bring it up if he didn't have to. Dongfang Chong was dead. Yemo thought that Dongfang Wang probably wouldn't dare do anything to the family anymore, so he left the next morning on his way back to Luoyu. Chapter 687. Most fortunate to be together. Chapter 687. Most fortunate to be together. Luoyu Lake. It was the most peaceful and beautiful lake in Luoyu, and it was connected to a mountain. A bright green patch of grass surrounded lake, and behind it, there was a very beautiful-looking mansion. This was the place Yemo lived at. He had built a simple spirit-gathering formation there, so the spirit chi was much denser than other places. Yemo was never at home, so this was where Luoying and Ning Qingxue lived at. Tang Beiwei and Yi Ling also frequently came over to play. There was a very large garden before the mansion. It was Yemo's herb garden. It didn't have many spirit herbs, though. Because the Luoyu War had ended, most of the things to take care of had to do with compensation, immigration, and rebuilding. So Luoying and Ning Qingxue had a lot of free time. They spent their time mostly gardening during the day, but today they weren't in the mood for that because Yemo was coming back. They were waiting for Yemo on the top of the grass mountain. They were very worried for him. After the Ice Helm Island exploding, and now that they knew he was fine, they wanted to see him even more. Before Yemo landed, he saw Luoying and Ning Qingxue looking for him expectantly, and a well of emotions surged up. No matter how things were outside, Luoying and Ning Qingxue were always waiting for him to come back. When Yemo approached the two women, they ran to hug him. The sense of happiness and bliss almost drowned him and melted him. A big bird also saw this and also flew to them. No one wanted to talk at that moment. Sometimes silence speaks more than 1,000 words. Tang Beiwei and Yi Ling saw this from a distance. Tang Beiwei pulled Yi Ling, who didn't want to leave, in order to give Yemo some space. Beiwei, I haven't seen brother for a long time. Yi Ling didn't want to leave. Tang Beiwei whispered something to Yi Ling, and Yi Ling's face got red. She pinched Tang Beiwei. I didn't think you were this dirty. I'm telling brother. Luoying, Ning Qingxue, and Yemo saw the two girls play fighting, but they didn't want to move or say anything. After a long while, Yemo said, "Let's go back." Before they replied, he carried the two women and flew to the door. Although she knew what Yemo and Luoying were going to do, Ning Qingxue didn't want to leave. Looking at how Yemo was scratching his face, Luoying laughed to herself. She knew Yemo was embarrassed, so she whispered something to Ning Qingxue. Eventually, Ning Qingxue left unwillingly. Yet she still went back to her room. What did you say to Qingxue? Yemo asked strangely. Luoying smiled and didn't say anything. Yemo could no longer resist his yearning for Luoying and carried her onto the bed. As his wife, of course Luoying knew what Yemo was going to do. It wasn't her first time. She could tell from Yemo's eyes. Yemo stripped Luoying's clothes off and threw them on the ground. A soft moan sounded as he squeezed Luoying into his arms. Her eyes were dreamy as she held onto Yimo's waist, as if not wanting for him to keep moving, yet also asking Yimo to keep moving. The panting became louder. Although her eyes were shiny and dreamlike, Luoying still wanted to wipe Yimo's non-sweating forehead. But before she could raise her hand, her lips were covered by Yimo's lips. Time went by, and the rustling gradually calmed down. Although he hadn't wasted much stamina, Yimo still hugged Luoying tightly and didn't want to move. Luoying didn't want to move as well. If possible, she wanted to stay like this forever. There was that happiness that one achieved when being in the arms of the person you love. Ning Qingxue carefully opened the door and walked inside. Seeing Luoying and Yimo on the bed together, her face blushed. She was a little unhappy with Yimo. When he had been with her, he had told her that she needed to reach foundation establishment state first. Why hadn't he said that to Sister Luoying? However, she knew that Yimo had seen her for sure. Hence, before he could say anything, she took off her shoes and squished into the blanket. Yimo did know that Ning Qingxue had come inside the room, but just when he was about to get up, he realized he had no clothes on him. He didn't expect Ning Qingxue to get in the bed. He even had a crazy thought. Ning Qingxue's body was also soft and warm. When she pressed herself against Yimo, he felt this searing fire again. When Ning Qingxue put her arms around him, he was so comfortable that he almost moaned. Yimo also put his arm around Ning Qingxue and looked apologetically at Luoying. Luoying smiled. When she was about to speak, Ning Qingxue said, "Brother Imo, you lied to me. You and Sister Luoying were doing that. Why don't you do it with me?" "I'm also dash." Yimo quickly blocked her mouth with his until she was panting, and then said, "We dash." Ning Qingxue suddenly smiled and also blocked Yimo's mouth with hers. After a while, she said, "I know. Sister Luoying already told me. At that time, she thought you were going to die. I don't need that foundation establishment state. I just want to be with you and Sister Luoying forever." Yimo could feel the softness and inseparable love at the bottom of his heart were so real. He hugged them until he squeezed both of them into his arms, making sure it wasn't a dream. Ning Qingxue's voice seemed to come from the edge of heaven. "I'm already very satisfied with the fact that Sister Luoying could leave me a spot. I heard about your wedding. I envy it. It's a shame I wasn't there. Sister Luoying is very brave. If it had been before, I believe I wouldn't have had the courage Sister Luoying had, but now I do. Brother Imo, I also want to be your real wife, like Sister Luoying." Luoying heard this and nodded in agreement. Yimo rubbed Ning Qingxue's hair and said softly, "Don't worry, we can reach foundation establishment state for sure. I'll break through to stage 6, and as soon as I do, we will have our wedding. After our wedding, I might need to leave for a long time. When I come back, perhaps we can all reach foundation establishment state. Believe me, we will be together forever. A few decades isn't enough time for me to love you guys." Hearing this, Ning Qingxue and Luoying's eyes were sparkling, and they got turned on again. It was very easy to love someone, but it was hard for the person you love to love you as much. Yimo whispered to Ning Qingxue's ear, "When I reach stage 6 and have our wedding, I will take you. You and Luoying are both my greatest loves." Yimo didn't want to take Ning Qingxue's virginity before having a proper wedding, like he did with Luoying. Chapter 688. Young Woman Carrying a Kid. Chapter 688. Young woman carrying a kid. With Yimo's return, everyone of Luoyu's upper management felt assured, and since they had gotten such large sums of compensation and so many captives from the war, Luoyu rapidly started building once again. And although the new wave of immigration hadn't begun yet, it was a fact that many people were planning on coming to Luoyu. What caught everyone's attention the most was the news that 3 months later, on the first day of the new year, the founder of Luoyu Pharmaceuticals, Yimo, would have his wedding. The day would be made a public holiday. Not many people knew about Yimo's identity before, but now everyone knew that he was the founder of Luoyu. Even Su Yuehua had to come to his wedding. Although Yimo knew that quite some people already knew who he really was, he actually didn't want the whole world to know that he was the ultimate boss. Yimo didn't seek fame. He preferred a peaceful and free life. And of course, if that life could last forever, that would be even better. If it wasn't for him wanting to give Luoying and Ning Qingxue a big wedding, he wouldn't have even wanted Su Yuehua and company to make it known to the world like that. But Luoying and Ning Qingxue had been suffering quite a lot because of being with him. So even though they didn't care, Yimo didn't want them to marry him without anyone knowing. Now that he had built Luoyu, he would make everyone there know that Luoying and Ning Qingxue were his wives. The entire city soon got into a festive spirit. Because Yimo didn't like bothering himself with miscellaneous matters, he left everything to Su Yuehua and company, except for the city planning. Ning Qingxue did help out with some of the financial matters, but Luoying didn't do anything in the Luoyu government. She just looked after the herbs in the garden every day. Before Yimo went into his solitary training in order to break through to Stage 6, he took Ning Qingxue and Luoying to the Mei Snow Mountains. However, he wasn't able to find the snow fox. Yimo had wanted to find it so that he could take it with him to the small dimension, because it had the ability to find spiritual objects. Yimo, Luoying, and Ning Qingxue played outside for another month before going back to Luoyu for Yimo's solitary training. Yimo knew how powerful great heaven masters were, and he knew that there were ancient cultivator homes in the small world, so he absolutely had to reach Stage 6 before he could leave. If he died in the small world, then what would Luoying and Ning Qingxue do? If Yimo could choose, he would rather just reach the tertiary stage of Qi gathering. But Yimo knew that that would be impossible with the mere 3 spirit stones he had. Although he was at the tertiary stage of Stage 5 already, Yimo wasn't even sure if he would be able to reach Stage 6 at all, so he didn't dare use the 3 spirit stones yet. He just used the ordinary way of gathering spirit Qi. If he had hopes of breaking through, he would use the stones to help him break through, otherwise it would be a waste to use them. He still needed 7 spirit stones to enter the small world too, and he didn't have enough. So Yimo was thinking that if he couldn't find 7, he would cut the 3 into smaller pieces and see if he could get in with that. A month flew by, and it became clear once again that the spirit Qi on Earth was really not good enough. He had only consolidated his strength a little, and he didn't even reach the peak of Stage 5, much less Stage 6. Yimo rejoiced that he hadn't used the spirit stones. If he had, he would have reached the peak of Stage 5 at most, but Stage 6 would still be impossible. He was about to have his big wedding with Luoying and Ning Qingxue, so he didn't want to keep cultivating anymore. He used the extra time he had to make 3 flying swords and spend time with Luoying and Ning Qingxue. After another month passed, Yimo had used the materials he had to make 3 flying swords. One was for Luoying, one for Ning Qingxue, and one for Tang Beiwei. He would be leaving Luoyu and the people he loved with the necessary self-defense capabilities. Even for Yiling, Yi Zifeng, and Yi Xing, he made a set of ancient martial arts cultivation methods. Luoyu was very busy at the moment. Although the new immigrants hadn't arrived yet, many who wanted to make the move were surveying the island. All those tourists heard that an important figure was going to have a wedding and that the wedding was going to be held by the city lord, so they all wanted to stay for the wedding. Luoyu's hotels ran out of space, so much that normal citizens began renting out their places to tourists. The newly built Luoyu had attracted many foreigners, and everyone who came felt like Luoyu was grandiose, beautiful, and had all the facilities needed. They called it heaven, the most ideal place to live. The people who came to check the city out all wanted to immigrate as soon as possible when they heard that the immigration restrictions had been getting tighter since the last war. On a certain street in Luoyu, in front of the door of a shopping mall, a young woman was carrying a small child who was looking around everywhere. Although the woman looked drowned in stress, her face was pretty. Perhaps she was too pretty, and having a certain royal temperament to her, people soon started asking her if she needed help. Just when she wanted to ask where Yimo lived, she saw 2 girls walking past the street. She shook her head and quickly followed after them. She knew one of the girls. It was Yimo's sister. Yiling brother is marrying sisters Luoying and Ning Qingxue tomorrow. Can you tell me what you're going to give them already? Yiling had been asking Tang Beiwei what she would be giving them, but she just wouldn't tell her. The young woman who was about to stop Yiling almost tripped, and the little girl in her arms started crying. Her face went pale, and she quickly patted the girl to comfort her. Hearing the girl cry, Yiling turned around, looked strangely at the girl in the woman's arms, and she quickly said to Tang Beiwei, "Beiwei, look at that girl, she's so pretty. She's only about 1 year old. How can she be so pretty already?" The woman saw this and became nervous. When she heard that Emo hadn't died, she took the child all the way from Flowing Snake to Luoyu to find Emo. But she didn't expect Emo to be about to get married with his fiancée Ning Qingxue. In that case, what would she become? The Song family had enmity with Emo, yet she had Emo's child from when Emo saved her. At this moment, the young woman felt powerless. She looked down in fear of getting identified by Yiling as Song Yangzhu. 1 year ago, she had been saved by someone at the Yimei Snow Mountains, and she had stayed there. She gave birth to Emo's child and thought about the Song family and Emo, and her heart melted. As the child came into this world, there was no longer hatred in her heart. She no longer had the motivation to cultivate anymore, and all her focus was on the child. Her cultivation level also halted at the black level and was even about to go down. So the only person she thought about other than her child was Emo. She didn't want the child to not have a father, so she took the child with her in search of Emo. When she heard that Emo didn't come out of that cave, however, she didn't dare search for Emo anymore. Yet when the child got a little older, she couldn't resist it anymore, took her daughter and left Yimei Mountain. 2 months ago, she came to Beijing and tried to find news of Emo. The news that Emo was alive almost made her cry. The moment she heard the news, she completely forgot that Emo was the person she had once set out to kill. Chapter 689. Emo, don't cry. Chapter 689. Emo, don't cry. Song Yangzhu hadn't expected that the first news she would get after arriving would be that Emo was having a wedding. And the person who she found out from was Emo's sister no less. At that moment, her mind went blank. She didn't know what to do. Even though she knew that Ning Qingxue was Emo's fiancé, she still felt lost. She suddenly felt like she was extra. Because of her talent, the Song family had sent her to the Heaven Squad so that she could be useful to them, but she was just a pawn for the Song family. And then, her master just left her without saying anything. And when the big Song family fortune was split up, no one remembered her. No one wanted to give her anything. No one even wanted to so much as say hi to her, yet she didn't think much about it. No one in the Song family had wanted to get revenge, while only she endured the hardships to go to the Hidden Sects tournament all in order to get revenge for the Song family. When she went to the tomb that night, she even almost lost her life. But what was even more tragic was that she lost her virginity to the enemy she set out to kill. It was after she got pregnant with Momo and gave birth to her that she finally found a little aspiration in life. She forgot about the conflicts concerning the Song family and Emo, and she only thought about Emo in her heart. Sometimes, she would even reminisce about the time she spent with him. But that was all a dream. Yiling suddenly felt like the young woman seemed a bit shaky, and she quickly came over to help her. Big sister, what's wrong? Are you all right? Song Yangzhu shook her head. I'm fine. Perhaps I'm just a bit tired, but I'll be fine soon. I should be going. Xiaoling, this girl's eyes look like brothers, haha. Tang Beiwei walked over and saw that the girl's eyes looked exactly like Emo's. Yiling also saw this and said joyfully, they really do. If brother were to be carrying this kid, I would think it's his child for sure. Brother should be having one soon too. Maybe next year? Tang Beiwei said. This little girl is really cute, though. Here, big sister will give you this. Yiling took off the bracelet she was wearing and put it on the little girl. Song Yangzhu quickly refused. We can't accept that. We just met. How could we take such an expensive gift? Yiling pushed it back and said, Sister, I really like this kid. Her eyes really look like my brother's. My brother gave me this bracelet. Hearing this, Song Yangzhu didn't push it away anymore and just said thank you. Tang Beiwei just wanted to ask for the girl's name when her phone rung. After the call, the two quickly bid Song Yangzhu and the girl farewell. Song Yangzhu looked at the two and stood there in silence for a long time. Then, she carried her daughter to the roadside and sat down. She had been looking for Emo for a few months, and this was what she got. What would she even do if she found Emo at this time? Ruin his wedding? Did Emo owe her anything? Despite their enmity, he had saved her more than once. When night fell, Song Yangzhu calmed her heart. She felt the luminous pearl in her bag. That was the only Emo had left her. Although she really wanted to leave Luoyu City that very night, She also really wanted to see Emo again too. Or perhaps she just wanted her daughter to see her dad once. Perhaps he never would have thought he already had a daughter. Song Yangju laughed at herself and walked to a nearby hotel. On the first day of the new year, the entire Luoyu city was covered in festive colors. In order to thank the founder of Luoyu, Emo, for his contributions, City Lord Su Yuehua would be the bridesmaid and walk through the main street of Luoyu with the two beautiful brides. Ning Qingxue finally realized her dream. She had always wanted to wear the bride's veil and walk around the city with the person she loved. Today, her dream was finally realized. The main street of Luoyu was very busy. People heard that there would not only be two beautiful brides, but also one very handsome bridegroom. Hearing the intense good wishes and applause, even someone like Emo, who didn't like overly populated places, felt proud. He had built this place, and he had done so for Qingxue, while the city was named after Luoying. Luoying and Ning Qingxue leaned blissfully on Yemo's side as the limousine slowly took them to Luoyu Lake. No words could describe their happiness right now. They liked to keep a low profile in general, but with their husband. So what if they acted high-key this once? Besides, they were just seeing their own city. This was where they would be living in the future. In this peaceful, calm, and beautiful city. Meanwhile, Song Yangju was holding her daughter and watching amongst the crowd. Looking at the grandiloquent wedding car with Emo and his two brides in it, she felt like crying. Emo had married two beautiful wives at once, but she wasn't among them. She had seen Ning Qingxue before, but she had gotten only more beautiful. As she wore a white wedding gown, she looked like a heavenly goddess. Her face was covered in happiness and pride. Her hands were clasped tightly together with Emo's, not wanting to let go for even a second. Meanwhile, the woman on the other side, instead of saying, "She's just like a goddess," it would be more fitting to say, "How could a goddess compare to her?" Her wedding gown was also white, and Song Yangju believed she had never seen a woman prettier than her. Her smile was very calm and soft. It was clear that all her heart and mind was on Emo as well. As though feeling Song Yangju's eyes, that woman looked at her. Song Yangju quickly looked down. She felt deeply insecure. She felt like she was an ugly duck compared to the two girls next to Emo. She could no longer stop the bitterness in her heart, and her tears fell on her daughter's face and into her mouth. Perhaps due to the salty taste, the little girl started crying. Song Yangju quickly left the crow and wiped her tears as she calmed the baby down. But the daughter started crying more and more. Song Yangju quickly uttered, "Don't cry, Momo, don't cry." But the baby kept crying. "Momo, Emo, if you keep crying, Mommy will leave you here." Afraid that her daughter's cries were affecting others, Song Yangju started to threaten her daughter. But the more she threatened, the more her daughter cried. Song Yangju started to feel bad, and so she softened her voice again. "Emo, don't cry. Mommy will take you home." More and more tears dripped from her face, and they fell on her daughter's face, who then began to cry more. Finally, the people around them started feeling annoyed and told her to take her child away. Chapter 690, Drunk Girl. Chapter 690, Drunk Girl. Emo had a sudden heartache when he heard a kid cry in the crowd. He scanned his spirit sense out and saw a woman carrying a child, but they quickly disappeared from his spirit sense range. He felt that figure seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember from where. What happened? Luo Ying's whole heart was on Emo, so she immediately noticed his emotions. Ning Qingxue also felt it and grasped Emo's hand, staring at him worriedly. Emo looked at them and smiled. "We're at Luoyu Lake. The wedding ceremony is about to begin. Perhaps I'm a little nervous." "Sister, his status is so high in Luoyu." And Jiqi had come with another girl near her age to see Luoyu's biggest wedding. She recognized Emo immediately, and Ning sighed. She finally understood how Emo could get her into Luoyu so easily and how he could get Yu Miaodon to take her there. She also finally realized why the young master of the Chiu family and Handan were that scared when they saw him. The only thing she didn't get was why wasn't Su Jingwen there. Both of his wives were pretty, but Su Jingwen wasn't bad either. If she wasn't wrong, Emo definitely was not just simply the founder of the company. She could tell that Su Yuehua's attitude to Yimo was that of an inferior to a superior. Yimo might be the real master of Luoyu City. Thinking about this, Ning breathed heavily. Was Yimo the owner of Luoyu? It sounded crazy. If he didn't go around with so many girls, Yimo, who had his own country, was on a whole different level to those young high-class men she knew. Luozong. Qi Wanqing had returned there. She had left a few years ago and just came back. Her mother told her that the Qi family would be living there now. She was planning to come back from England after 2 years, but her parents insisted that she finished a double bachelor degree before she returning. She had lost contact with Ning Qingxue in England, and she couldn't contact her when she got back. She couldn't contact Yimo either. Qi Wanqing had gone to the army. Guo Qi, Lu Lin, and even Feng Wei were gone. She couldn't even find out where they had gone after from the army. Perhaps I've been gone for too long. Qi Wanqing felt disappointed. She only had the little wolf that Yimo gave her for company. It hadn't grown a lot bigger, but it could communicate with her telepathically. Has Brother Yi married Sister Qingxue, or his auntie, that girl that looks like a goddess? Qi Wanqing sighed again. She felt that she had been very lonely, both before and after she went abroad. She laughed at herself. She was supposed to be there for an arranged date, but all she could do is think about Brother Yi and whether or not he was married. Qi Wanqing rubbed her head. She knew that no matter if Yimo was married or not, her family would not allow her to be with him. He was an abandoned son, kicked out of the family. I have the courage to run with you, but I don't know where to, Qi Wanqing said to herself as she shook her head. She walked into a luxurious bar. As she went inside, she realized she didn't know why the arranged date was at a bar. It was strange. Although the mood in the bar was right, she still didn't really like it. When it was dinner time, there weren't many people in the establishment. There were only a few people sitting at the bar drinking. The only thing Qi Wanqing noticed was that there was a woman drinking at a corner of the bar by herself. She seemed to be thinking a lot. Her eyes were also dilated. What shook Qi Wanqing was that she was a very pretty girl. Qi Wanqing was very confident in her looks, only against Ning Qingxue, and that goddess-like woman she felt diminished. However, this girl was better than her in both looks and temperament. She got an indescribable feeling, as though that girl was about to ascend into the immortal realm. Why was a girl like her drinking alone in a bar? If someone had broken her heart, then what kind of cruel-hearted man could do that to such a girl? Wanqing, this way. Just when Qi Wanqing was confused, someone called her from another table. Qi Wanqing turned around to see a tall, handsome young man smiling at her from another table. She immediately realized that he was her arranged date, Gu Yinsheng. The Luozong Gu family was the biggest family in Luozong right now. They were still nothing compared to the 5 big families of China, but in Luogang they were the local power. Even in the Jiangnan province, they were a well-known family. Qi Wanqing knew why her family wanted her to go on a arranged date with Gu Yinsheng. After leaving the army, the Qi family's power had declined greatly, and in order to develop their ties in Luozong, they needed someone to get married into the Gu family to maximize their profit. Honestly, Gu Yinsheng wasn't bad. At least, she didn't hate him. Yet she hated how her family used her as a commodity. Due to this decision, her relationship with her parents hadn't been going well. Gu Yinsheng was contemptuous about his arranged date. He had never thought he needed an arranged date to get married, so he had chosen a not-so-serious place to meet up, a bar. He wanted to show that he wasn't very serious about this. He had come without even looking at Qi Wanqing's photo. To him, it was just a job to do. But when he saw Qi Wanqing walk into the bar, his eyes lit up immediately. He had seen many girls before, but never one as youthful and pretty as Qi Wanqing. She was the epitome of innocence and beauty. She was around 168 and didn't wear high heels. Her skin was white and her eyebrows were perfect. Her curves were clearly defined. I want this girl. That was the only thought Gu Yinsheng had. He had never thought he could meet such a pretty girl through an arranged date. As the next in line to the family leader, Gu Yinsheng had seen plenty of women and been with too many. However, for the first time, he saw one that he wanted to marry. Hello, I'm Gu Yinsheng. I'm studying a Bachelor of Finance and Management in Luozong University. Gu Yinsheng reached out his hand. He knew what to say depending on the woman. For a girl as pure and innocent as Qi Wanqing, it was obvious she hadn't been in a relationship yet. Qi Wanqing had an apologetic smile. I'm not used to shaking hands with strangers, sorry. Gu Yinqing's mouth shook, but he reacted quickly and pulled his hand back. What do you want to drink? He controlled the mood quickly. He was confident that with his experience he could make her fall for him easily. I'll have a cup of juice. Right after Qi Wanqing replied, she heard a voice say, I don't want you to give that to me. You're not Yimo, Yimo? Qi Wanqing looked back and saw the woman again, who seemed to be completely drunk now. She had an empty cup in her hand and was saying something to the man sitting opposite to her. Chapter 691. Night of the Wedding. Chapter 691. Night of the wedding. Qi Wanqing got up immediately, walked up to the girl and said to that man, What's going on? The man showed his hands innocently and said, This girl had been drinking from noon till now. I asked her where she lived so I can send her home, but she's not moving. Who are you to her? Qi Wanqing studied the man. Her detective experience made her feel that the man didn't know the girl. The man said casually, I saw her here at noon, and she's been drinking until now. She still wanted to keep drinking, so I was worried about her and offered to send her back. Qi Wanqing sneered. Anyone could see how pretty this girl was. She had been drinking from noon till now, so this man having been waiting from noon till now meant that he clearly wanted to send her back after she was drunk. Thinking about this, she said to the man, Then thank you. But now that I'm here, your help is no longer required. I can send her back. The man just wanted to say something when Gu Yinqing walked over and asked, What's wrong, Wanqing? Gu Yinqing also saw the drunk girl, and a sliver of shock flashed across his eyes. It was already a huge fortune to be able to see Qi Wanqing, but now he saw a girl perhaps even a little better than Qi Wanqing. What day was today? Gu Yinqing was wondering about what would be happening next. Nothing, my friend is drunk, so I'll be sending her back. Qi Wanqing was going to drag the drunken girl home. The girl saw Qi Wanqing and looked surprised. Qing Xue, how come you're here? Aren't you getting married today? Qi Wanqing confirmed now that this girl knew Yimo for sure. But soon, she thought of the latter half of her words, and Qi Wanqing grabbed her hand and asked, You're saying Ning Qing Xue is getting married? With whom? With Brother Yi? Brother Yi. Pour me another cup. I need to celebrate. The girl was acting more and more drunk. The man heard the two's words and realized that the girl didn't lie to him. They really knew each other. But he then noticed Gu Yinqing and said in horror, Gu. Gu Yinqing nodded and ignored the man. He looked at Qi Wanqing and said, The hotel across the street belongs to me. So how about you bring your friend there and stay for a night? Qi Wanqing pulled the girl and smiled. No need. My home is close by, so I don't need to stay in a hotel. Goodbye. As this happened, Gu Yinqing's face turned bleak. He stared at the man and asked, What's your name? CEO Gu. I'm Jing Sun, Gu Mingnan's classmate. I have seen you once, the man quickly replied. Tell me about that girl. Gu Yinqing pointed at the opposite chair and sat down himself. Yes, CEO Gu. Zhang Sun quickly sat down opposite Gu Yinqing. Luoyu Lake was extra beautiful today, but even without decorations, it was already the most beautiful place in Luoyu. Yimo didn't invite the Beijing Yi family, so the only family members who came were Ning Zhongfei, Lan Yu, Yiling, Tang Beiwei, and Yi Zifeng. Although she cared a lot about her daughter, Lan Yu could still accept Yimo marrying her daughter and Susu at the same time. After all, Yimo was no ordinary person. To Ning Zhongfei, it didn't matter as long as his daughter was happy. If it wasn't for Yimo, his daughter would be a concubine now. He was 120% satisfied about Yimo. Yimo was a capable person and had saved both his wife and daughter in America. As for his company, it had already joined Luoyu. He was very satisfied with Luoyu too. It was the place he and his wife wanted to live. After a while, all the people left and only Yimo, Luoying, and Ning Qingxue were left in the mansion. Luoying pushed Ning Qingxue into the bedroom and planned on leaving. But Ning Qingxue grabbed Luoying's hand and said, Sister Luoying, don't leave, stay here. Luoying smiled and said, We said that I'll come later, right? It's your first time, Luoying. Yimo couldn't help but call out to her too. Although he knew that it was Ning Qingshue's first time, and that Luoying wanted them to be alone, he was still a little anxious. He knew what he wanted to say, but he didn't know how to explain it to Luoying and Ning Qingxue. Luoying walked up to Yimo, put her arms around his neck, and kissed him. Then, she smiled and left. Yimo knew that she was assuring him. With that kiss, Yimo felt strong. No matter what happened in the future, he would never leave Luoying and Ning Qingxue behind. They were his life. Cultivation was important, but there were some things more important than cultivation. Without Luoying and Ning Qingxue, so what if he lived for thousands of years? As though feeling what Yimo was thinking, Ning Qingxue walked up and rested on Yimo's chest. Looking at Ning Qingxue, a fire rose in Yimo's heart. He thought about the scene when Ning Qingxue went to save him under the Shenong Jia cliff and how she slept in his arms, and he almost reached his hands into her chest. Thinking about this, he couldn't help but reach his hand into Ning Qingshue's collar. When Yimo's warm hands grabbed her sturdy chest, Ning Qingxue moaned. Her face burst red like the leaves of autumn, and her eyes became dreamy as she was barely able to mutter the words, "Carry me to the bed." When Ning Qingxue felt all her clothes be taken off by Yimo, she felt like she was on fire. She squeezed herself into Yimo's arms as a certain wet feeling rose from her stomach. When Yimo's hands completely surrounded her, she could feel her heart beating rapidly. She had thought of this scene more than once and had even dreamed about it, but when it really came, she found it hard to control herself. Yimo's broad, sturdy chest and his masculine smell made her lose herself. As Ning Qingxue moaned happily, Yimo felt an indescribable satisfaction. He didn't think that the famous cold-looking prettiest girl of Beijing, Ning Qingxue, would be so sensitive. Her body was soft like the clouds, while her temperature could melt him. A piercing pain suddenly came, and Ning Qingxue knew what it was. She subconsciously tightly hugged Yimo's shoulders and suddenly remembered when she had Luoying asked about this a few days before. "Sister Luoyu, was the first time painful? Do I need to bite him or clasp his shoulders like the books say? Were you like that?" Luoying said, "By the time I felt the pain, he had already imprinted himself in my heart, and I knew I was always in his heart too. I didn't want him to feel pain like me, so I just wanted him to hug me tightly." Pain was temporary, while the stunning joy and satisfaction lasted longer. Ning Qingxue could no longer resist the love in her heart and grabbed Yimo's neck, sticking her tongue into Yimo's mouth. When the morning sun rose, Ning Qingxue opened her eyes to find Luoying already laying on the other side of Yimo. She reached her hand across Yimo's chest and grabbed Luoying's hand. "Sister Luoying." Chapter 692. Coming to Duanheng 7 stars again. Chapter 692. Coming to Duanheng 7 stars again. When Su Jingwen woke up, she found herself laying on a bed without her jacket. She was shocked. Her head buzzed as she fell into a hell of horror. She remembered she had been drinking for the whole afternoon, and someone tried to send her home. Then, Su Jingwen calmed down. She had never drunk outside. However, because it had been Yimo's wedding yesterday, and she hadn't been one of the brides, she drank to ease the pain. She immediately uncovered the blanket and found her body was fine. Had she not been raped? "You're awake?" Qi Wanqing walked inside and quickly said. "And you are?" Su Jingwen looked strangely at Qi Wanqing. She understood that probably this girl had brought her back. Thinking about this, she asked, "Did you bring me back last night?" "Yes, I happened to be at the bar and saw you were drunk, so I took you to my house." "I'm Qi Wanqing. What's your name?" Qi Wanqing smiled and asked. Su Jingwen immediately calmed down and heaved a sigh of relief. She replied, "Sorry for causing you trouble yesterday. I'm Su Jingwen - what? You're Su Jingwen?" Qi Wanqing claimed with surprise. "Do you know me?" Su Jingwen looked at Qi Wanqing. She didn't know her. Qi Wanqing waved her hand. "I heard Qingxue talk about you. I lived with her for a while. When it was your birthday, Yimo danced the first dance with you. So, you know Qingxue?" Su Jingwen also got happy. Yet, after hearing about Yimo, her expression seemed a little melancholic. "What's wrong?" she asked shakily. "Sister Jingwen, did Yimo get married?" Su Jingwen nodded, but she soon noticed Qi Wanqing's mood. She stared at Qi Wanqing in surprise. Was this girl connected to Yimo too? How come he knew every pretty girl out there? Qi Wanqing laughed at herself and quickly said, Brother Yi saved me and gave me a little wolf. I like him, but I know my family wouldn't let us be together. Also, he has someone he likes, so, Sister Jiangwen, don't think too much about it. I went on an arranged date yesterday and then I saw you dash, so that was it. Su Jingwen finally understood. She was quite like Qi Wanqing. Sometimes, if you don't pursue what you want, it won't belong to you. Su Jingwen sighed, but soon she became a little grump. Had she not tried her best? Yimo never even gave her a chance. The night before, while Ning Qingxue and Luoying were lying in his arms, she was getting drunk in a bar. Su Jingwen laughed at herself. What's wrong, Sister Jingwen? Qi Wanqing repeated the question. Su Jingwen shook her head and didn't reply. By the way, Sister Jingwen, do you know who Brother Yi married? Is it Qingxue? Qi Wanqing really wanted to know who had managed to marry Brother Yi. Su Jingwen nodded. Yes, but he took 2 brides at the same time, Qingxue and Luoying. His sister Yiling told me. So he married 2 women? This Qi Wanqing's eyes were wide open in shock. How could that be? Su Jingwen smiled bitterly and said after a long while, because Luoyu is his, the country is also his. What? Qi Wanqing was completely astonished. She hadn't expected that Luoyu, which dominated world politics and caught the attention of the world, was Yimo's. After their wedding, Yimo stayed with Luoying and Ning Qingxue every day. They also knew that he was leaving soon, so they clung on to him even more. The last few months, they had been to a lot of places and been to Mei Nei more than once, but they never saw the snow fox again. Ning Qingxue was at stage 3 now, and although she couldn't fly on the flying sword yet, she could control it to attack. Tang Beiwei had become a lot quieter after getting the flying sword. She had gotten more hardworking when it came to cultivation. Yiling, however, couldn't cultivate as Tang Beiwei did, so she could only practice ancient martial arts. Luoying also reached stage 2. When Yimo asked her about the diary, she always smiled, but she didn't bring up anything about it. 3 months later, Luoyu was on the right track and all the jobs were ongoing without any interruptions. Yimo bid farewell to Luoying and Ning Qingxue and left Luoyu himself. He knew that if he stayed in Luoyu, he would only age and die like an ordinary person. His fortune had decided that if he didn't look for fortune, his path of cultivation would be much harder than Ning Qingxue or Luoying's. Yimo could even imagine that if he stayed in Luoyu, one day he would be old, but Luoying and Ning Qingxue might have reached foundation establishment state. In this case, they could only watch him die slowly without being able to do anything. They might even try to follow him. That wasn't what he wanted. Luo Fei was looking at the 3 newlyweds from afar. Yimo was married, and her little martial sister didn't know for sure. But so what if she did? If she went into the small realm, she wouldn't be able to come out, and Yimo wouldn't be able to go in. Luo Fei sighed and left. Yimo searched in the Antarctica for a long time, but he still didn't find the blue bag Jiqi had talked about. According to her, Dongfang Wang had put some things in there. The reason he had come to find what Dongfang Wang had left there was because Yimo felt that he was a threat. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have a way to find where Shi Tang was, he would have already killed Dongfang Wang. But Yimo didn't mind that much. Dongfang Wang's current power was unable to do anything to Luoyu. Moreover, Luoying and Ning Qingxue were already at stage 3 Qi gathering. Yimo then went to Duanheng Ranges. Although he wanted to go to the small world at once, without 7 spirit stones or people with spirit root, the only thing he could do was to try with his 3 spirit stones. Since Enli village was also at the Duanheng Ranges, and he had met Luoying there, he went back to visit the place. He wanted to see if that house was still here. But when Yimo arrived, the place was deadly silent. Although there were still a few women washing clothes, it was no longer boisterous like before. He walked around and found that there was quite a lot of Yin Qi there. There were no longer kids playing around. The Yin Qi was invisible, but it had affected people significantly. Although he didn't know what was going on, he wouldn't let the Yin Qi stay there and harm them. He took out his Yin Sha bead and sucked all the Yin Qi in the place with it. Just when Yimo was about to ask what was going on, a red line flashed across his eyes and dashed into the depth of the Duanheng ranges. Yimo started chasing it without thinking. It was a ghost that had almost materialized. It wasn't the first time Yimo encountered one of them. The ghost seemed to fear him greatly and ran faster when it saw Yimo was after him. Yimo followed the red line and realized that he had arrived at where he wanted to go in the first place, the Valley of the Duanheng 7 Stars. "Dao friend, save me," the ghost shrieked. "Is it you?" Yimo saw that the nun Jiesun was standing on the Tianko position. He didn't expect the nun to still be there. Her blood and essence were strong. It was obvious she had recovered her powers. Her face was also ruder and seemed younger. Chapter 693. Rematch with Jiesun. Chapter 693. Rematch with Jiesun. The nun also noticed Yimo, but she never got to see how he had gotten there. "Haha," the nun laughed. "Just when I was about to go after you, you came here yourself. Kid, if I didn't teach you a good lesson, I would have lived all these decades for nothing." Yimo didn't expect that old woman to still be there. It seemed like she had a way to leave. If she really could enter the small world, perhaps he could use it too. Thinking about this, Yimo laughed. "Do you think you can teach me a lesson? You're old and ugly. Even if you strip naked, I would puke." Yimo suddenly stopped speaking. He saw more than 10 bodies. They had all been dried up. Some had even been dried to the bone. "You're asking to die." The moment Jiesun heard this, her face got crooked. She stood up on the stone and was about to attack. The ghost suddenly flew to her side and shrieked, "I have unquenchable enmity with this person. My master was killed by him at the foot of the Broken Top Mountain, and my brother was also burned by him." Yimo immediately understood what the ghost meant. He stared coldly at it. "So you're the other ghost pet of that old hag. You were lucky that I didn't find you that time, but today you won't be so lucky." Then, Yimo looked coldly at Jiesun. He said in a freezing tone, "No wonder so many people from the Enli village have gone missing. It was your doing, you scum. You joined forces with ghosts to kill innocent people." The ghost had used Yin Qi to help Jiesun find those with spiritual root. Then, they would take them there, to the Tianko position, to suck their blood and essence out of the person. Afterwards, the dead person's soul would be devoured by the ghost. Although the ghost had formed a red line, it meant no threat to Yimo at all. Meanwhile, Jiesun was at half-step Great Heaven, according to Luo Yin. Still, he had no pressure dealing with that at all. Yimo estimated that he was about as strong as Ren Pingchuan right now, and with his flying sword, he could beat a fully powered Ren Pingchuan. Jiesun's expression was very dark. She seemed to have realized that she was no good in a swearing contest against Yimo. However, in her eyes he was just an insect. She raised her hand and a horsetail whisk appeared in it. She just took one step forward, but the horsetail whisk reached over 10 meters and smashed down on Yimo's head. The ghost also shrieked and flew toward his forehead. So fast. Was this the power of a half-step Great Heaven martial artist? Yimo focused. He threw a fireball at the ghost while punching the horsetail whisk. Crack, sizzle, Yimo was struck by the whisk and thrown many meters away. Yimo took a Lotus Life pill without hesitation. He was sure that the nun wasn't at half-step Great Heaven. His fist bone had been cracked from the attack. Jiesun flew even further away and stumbled before spitting blood. She looked at Yimo in shock for a few seconds. She said very carefully, "You reached Great Heaven too, and you can even use inner fire. I underestimated you." Despite so, Jiesun was very surprised. How old was Yimo even? Still, he was already at Great Heaven, and he seemed even stronger than her. If he hadn't had to also deal with the ghost, she wouldn't just be spitting blood now. She wanted to leave there now. The 7-star formation could be opened. If she suddenly ran to the Tianko position and used her qi, would she be able to leave? Yet, she was unsatisfied. There were 2 golden pages of the Inai Luo Sutra on him. That was her main purpose. Luckily, she had reached Great Heaven there, but after that, she realized the importance of the Inai Luo Sutra. Had she also reached Great Heaven? Yimo immediately realized that the nun had broken through Great Heaven there. Luckily, He had had some fortune recently too, and had reached stage 5 tertiary level from stage 4 middle level. Otherwise, he would be no match for this nun. The ghost got burned by Emo's fireball, and it became even dimmer. It no longer dared to approach Emo and retreated into the valley. It had decided to run as soon as it got the opportunity. Emo didn't bother with the ghost either. He gave Jesun a deadly stare. No matter what, he wasn't going to let her go today. She had killed so many innocent from the village, and she still had the golden page. Emo had to capture her. He also could see that the horsetail whisk was no ordinary weapon. He actually hadn't broken it. When Jesun saw a sword suddenly appear in Emo's hand, her eyes twitched. She didn't even see how Emo had taken it out. Now, she had less confidence in defeating Emo. I want to make a deal with you. If you're willing, I can dash. Jesun truly wanted to kill him immediately, but she held back after thinking about the golden pages. She believed that if Emo could give her the pages, she would kill the ghost and give him a near-heaven stage ancient martial arts cultivation method. But before Jesun could finish, Emo started laughing. Old nun, I said I'm not interested in an old woman like you. Stop trying to seduce me with this rotten business. Don't disgust me. Emo wanted to enrage the nun and make her lose control. Although he was sure he could kill her, he didn't want any accidents to happen. You're asking to die. Jesun was so angry that she didn't care about the deal anymore. Her horsetail whisk with thousands of strands was thrown towards Emo. She had used almost all of her power in this attack. At the same time, the ghost suddenly came out from a corner and ran into the valley. He had chosen the perfect timing. Emo knew this and threw another fireball. Even if it meant him suffering a little, he wouldn't let this ghost run away. A petrified howl sounded. Emo didn't have the time to check if the ghost was gone. His flying sword clashed with the horsetail whisk. The flying sword cut the front part of the horsetail whisk, but Jesun's inner chi also stopped the flying sword's momentum. However, Jesun didn't seem perplexed or shocked that her horsetail whisk was broken. She just kept attacking Emo like a maniac. Another part of the horsetail whisk was cut off, but the broken part turned into needles and attacked Emo's vitals. Emo watched his flying sword pierce Jesun's waist, which started bleeding. But she didn't seem to notice this and just kept attacking him. Had his words really made the nun lose her mind? Did she not see that if she continued, her horsetail whisk would be cut down to nothing? Countless broken segments flew towards Emo, but they couldn't harm him. Splash! Emo's flying sword pierced Jesun's waist again. Emo realized that the nun hadn't lost her mind. She would avoid her vitals every time the flying sword struck her. Emo sneered. Just when he was about to control the flying sword to attack again, the countless horsetail's whisk suddenly exploded. Emo hadn't expected that such a small horsetail whisk could have that kind of feature. No wonder she didn't care if they were sliced off. Bang 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 dash. Emo felt pain all over his body. He grabbed the flying sword. He was about to jump when a black object struck him in the chest in the middle of the explosion. Emo spat blood. He knew that was Jesun's final move. She was giving up her horsetail whisk. In his rage, Emo sent out his flying sword to kill the nun, but he found her already standing on the stone. Not good. She was running away. Without thinking, Emo charged and grabbed her chest. Rip! The clothes in front of her were ripped off by Emo, unveiling a shocking whiteness. 2 fat buns broke free, dazzling Emo's eyes. Arg! Jesun screamed and immediately disappeared from Emo's sight. He subconsciously looked at the clothes in his hands. But before he could think, a huge suction came from the ground and he couldn't resist it at all. Chapter 694. Amazing Grab. Chapter 694. Amazing Grab. Emo came from the cultivation realm, so he knew what was going on. It was either a teleporting formation or a strongly hidden space formation. This suction wasn't normal. In other words, he wasn't using the normal method to come in. If it were a space formation, he might have been torn apart. Thinking about this, Emo started sweating. He immediately used his chi to protect himself, despite knowing that if it really was a space formation, his chi wouldn't even last half a breath. Without even mobilizing his chi, His chi had already ruptured inside his body and had charged at his organs and meridians. In an extremely short time, it was sucked away and his meridians started cracking. If he hadn't greatly increased the wideness of his meridians' tenacity last time, Emo suspected that his meridians wouldn't have been able to withstand this pull. But even so, if things continued like this, he might be torn apart the next second. Bang! Just when Emo was in despair, the pulling force disappeared and he was thrown down from the sky. The huge crash made him spit mouthfuls of blood. He wasn't dead. Emo's first reaction was to see if Jiesun was nearby, trying to sneakily attack him. However, he soon found that Jiesun wasn't there. He was at a barren road. Emo could rest assured, so he checked his body. He didn't have any chi left, and there were gashes all over his body. Emo cursed. He was sure that Jiesun had used abnormal means to open the formation, causing a special compression. Luckily, the space hadn't intertwined, or he would be torn into pieces. Emo's first reaction was to take out a Lotus Life pill, but when he grabbed the bottle he realized that it was empty. He had taken the last one while fighting Jiesun. Emo's heart sunk. It was his first time there, the legendary inner hidden sect's realm. There were countless masters there, but he didn't have any power at all. He still had 4 snow lotus seeds, but they were useless. Without supplementary herbs, he couldn't turn them into pills. Even if he had them, before recovering his chi, he wouldn't be able to make Lotus Life pills. Luckily, he had the lotus flower. Although it was a waste to eat it just like that, the most important thing was that he recovered his strength. He plucked a petal and placed it into his mouth. Then, Emo looked at what was in his hand. It was a red belly vest. Emo was dazed. Jiesun was even older than Jing Shi, but she wore a belly vest like this. It seemed like she was also a kinky old lady. Emo examined the belly vest. There was a pocket attached to it, which he opened without hesitation. The faint golden light almost made Emo scream. It was the golden page he had been looking so hard for. Haha. Emo couldn't help to start laughing. All the bad feelings were gone. It had been such an amazing grab. What would that old woman's face look like when she found out that not only had she showed her body, but that she also had lost the golden page? Emo was very satisfied thinking about this. After laughing, Emo immediately realized that something wasn't right. He didn't know much about the small world. If the place wasn't big and it only had a bunch of hidden sects, wouldn't he be found soon? Also, if that Jiesun nun realized that he had taken the golden page, would she tell everyone that he had it? If she released these news, he would really be in danger. Emo calmed down. He knew that the first thing he had to do now was recover his strength and then make plans. He wanted to find a place to rest and recover after eating the lotus petal. As for the facial wounds, it didn't matter that much. It was very easy to remove the scars from the exploding whisk. He only needed to eat a face-preserving pill. Thinking about this, Emo thought he might as well leave the scars and take the pill after he left the small world. Before he could move, his spirit sense scanned a cart coming from the road. Without thinking, Emo threw his things into the ring and moved to the side of the road. If he hadn't been so badly injured and dried out of his chi, he wouldn't have avoided strangers like this. He was just too weak and slow. By the time he reached the side of the road, the cart and a squad of people were there. Why did the cart stop? What's going on? A coarse voice sounded from the inside of horse carriage. A guard ran to the carriage and said, "Young miss, there's a heavily injured person on the side of the road. He's moving rather slowly. We need to wait for him to cross before the horse carriage can pass." "Oh, let me see." The blind was pulled to the side, and a pretty face inside the carriage was revealed. Emo felt something was off. How could the cart be pulled by horses, and how could there be guards leading the road? Also, had they called the girl young miss? Had he transmigrated to the past? He had thought he just came to a small world. Even if there was a difference in technological development, it shouldn't be a huge gap. After all, the inner hidden sects people could go out. But the dirty road he saw and the horse carriages had nothing to do with the modern world. He could see the girl's face in the carriage. She wasn't ugly and she didn't look bad. She was at most on the level of Njichi. The girl's eyebrows went up. She had some authority in gestures. It was obvious she had her own opinion about things and quite the temper. These people were usually spoiled young misses. Emo didn't want to mess with her. Thinking about this, he looked down and moved a few steps back. Interesting. The young girl smiled as she said. Suddenly she started speaking again. Bring this person with us. Let him rest on the carriage behind. She saw Emo was covered in blood and his face didn't have a single bit of good skin, but when he looked at her, he didn't seem scared. Then, he looked down again. Perhaps because she was too pretty and he felt self-conscious. So the moment she saw Emo, she thought of a great idea. Young miss, we don't know who this person is. Are we really going to take him with us? The guard hesitated and asked. The girl suddenly took out a handkerchief and wiped her eyes. Yes, look after him. Don't ask any more questions. Then, she muttered to herself. His face was ruined. Afterwards, she pulled the blinds down. The guard looked confusedly at Emo and then at the young miss. Did she know this guy? But he knew that regardless of what the young miss decided, he had to follow her orders well or he would be gone. What's your name? Where do you come from? How are you this badly injured? The guard asked Emo in an unhappy tone. Emoing, I'm a businessman and I was robbed. So this is what happened. Emo bullshit **D his way out. And the guard obviously wasn't someone really astute. Okay, then come with us. You can rest on our carriage. When we arrive to town, there will be someone to tend to your wounds, the guard said and nodded. Emo didn't want to go with these people, so he quickly said, Thank you, but my situation isn't that serious. You guys can go first. I can make it back myself. Chapter 695. Unknown Origin. Chapter 695. Unknown Origin. The guard sneered seeing that Emo refused to cooperate. Before he could do anything, the girl got off the carriage quickly and walked to Emo. Come on the carriage with us. After all, you're badly injured. Don't worry, I will treat you. Although you're not good-looking, you have some sort of heroic temperament. I actually dashed. The girl's voice became softer and softer, until she looked down eventually and stopped. Emo sneered. The girl's expression didn't seem truly embarrassed, but she was acting like she was. Although Emo didn't know what the girl was planning to do, he knew it had to do with him. Suddenly, a guard from the squad walked to them and said to Emo coldly, If you don't want to die, listen to young miss and come with us. Otherwise, I will kill you immediately. The guard didn't seem to respect the young miss at all. Emo noticed that the girl just frowned, but didn't say anything. Emo was furious. These people had nothing to do with him, but they were willing to kill him so easily. Emo's heart raged with killing intent. Although he had no chi, he still had his spirit sense. He knew that even if he used his flying sword, he wouldn't be able to kill all the people there. Although the strongest man there was the person who threatened him, he was only yellow level. That girl also looked like she was yellow level. If he had a little spirit chi, he would be fine for sure. However, he only had his spirit sense and his internal injuries were too severe. While Emo was still calculating how he was going to counterattack if they tried to kill him, the guard from before said again, Kid, our young miss will soon become a member of the Shangqing Mountain. It's your fortune that her benevolent heart is willing to save you. If you make young missus happy, perhaps she will let you follow her. Shangqing Mountain? Emo frowned. Was it a cultivation sect? The guard saw Emo's face and said in contempt, You don't know about Shangqing Mountain? That's right. It would be strange if you knew about it. You must also not know about Qinkuan sect. Young miss is too kind-hearted. The girl stopped the guard from talking. She stared at Emo as though trying to conquer him with her beauty. There really was a Qinkuan sect there. Emo was shook. He had heard about the Qinkuan sect. Luo Xian had told him the three big sects of the inner hidden sects were the Tai sect, the Qinkuan sect, and the Ci Hangjing Mosque. Emo looked at the guard in confusion. What is the Qinkuan sect? Qinkuan sect is one of the three biggest sects of the magical continent, together with Tai sect and Ci Hangjing Mosque. Our young miss is going to Shangqing sect, which is a subordinate sect of Qinkuan sect. It's useless telling you this. The guard shook his head. Hearing the words magical continent, Emo suddenly had a strange feeling. He felt like this place and the outside world had been one whole land before, but they had been separated due to some reason. He had read about the 5,000 years of Chinese history. If there really were Tao cultivators long time ago, many things could be explained. Perhaps due to the depletion of spirit qi, powerful beings segregated the cultivation havens, such as Shu Mountain, the legendary haven for sword cultivators. Yemo had looked around for it, but it wasn't just about finding a single mountain called Shu Mountain. There were many places like that. Could they all be found here? Suddenly Yemo asked, "Do you know where Shu Mountain is?" "Stop talking and get on the carriage." Someone like you trying to ask about Shu Mountain. The guard was getting impatient. Yemo looked at the young miss and suddenly smiled. He just went on to the back carriage like that. Although he didn't know why this girl was trying to get him to join them, at least she didn't have killing intent. Perhaps this world was just as he guessed, the part of Earth that was hidden. The reason he had agreed was because he could get to know more about the hidden sects through this woman. Seeing Yemo go inside, the girl smiled. She had thought this guy was tough to break, but a slight threat had made him succumb. If she had known this earlier, she wouldn't have bothered flirting. Yemo didn't talk on the carriage, but his ears were alert. He heard from the talks of the servants that the carriage was going to a place called Ci Town. This carriage entourage belonged to the Yu family, and the carriage at the front was for young Miss Yu. Yu family was one of the 3 largest families in the town. After another half a day of travel, they entered a medium-sized town at night. Yemo estimated that it was Ci Town. This town's roads were actually made of concrete and the building styles were like the ones in the outside world, but there were no power lines. It really looked like a rural village. The young Miss Yu didn't come bother him and sent him to a quiet room to rest. She even called an old doctor to look at him. For 3 days, Yemo was living comfortably. No one disturbed him, and there was even a maid to serve him. He just told her leave the things somewhere, and he would do it himself. 3 days had only allowed him to recover a sliver of qi, but Yemo knew that it was enough for self-protection. He didn't have lotus life pills with him, but he had 3 spirit stones. In order to recover his strength quick, he couldn't worry too much about wasting them. He used one to recover his qi. The spirit qi there was a little better than outside, but it was still very little. 3 days later, Yemo walked out of the Yu family estate. It was during the day, so the town was very busy. The currencies he saw were bronze and silver coins, and he was sure that there were gold coins too. Since there were towns, it meant there had to be rulers. He wondered if a dynasty is ruling there. Yemo was about to go to a restaurant and ask some people when he saw soldiers rush into the village. He scanned his spirit sense out. There were more and more soldiers gathering. Yemo stopped a waiter and asked, "What are these soldiers doing?" The waiter looked at Yemo. When he saw the symbols on his clothes, he immediately became very respectful. "Oh, so you're a manager at Yu State. Sorry, I didn't see you there. It's said that the authorities are checking the population. Any person of unknown origin will be taken away." Yemo was shook. He suspected it was Jiesun's doing. She was forcing him to show himself. Chapter 696, Emo Babe. Chapter 696, Emo Babe. Yemo didn't care much about the soldiers. However, if he caused trouble and Jiesun found out where he was and sent some great heaven masters after him, he wouldn't be able to get away in his current state. Even at his best, he wouldn't be able to defeat a few great heaven masters together before he reached the tertiary stage of qi gathering. Thinking about this, Yemo couldn't stay calm anymore. He wanted to go back to the Yu estate, but he knew that if Jiesun was searching for him, he would be found even if he went back there. Thinking about this, Yemo immediately wanted to go into the restaurant hotel. Instead of going back to the Yu family, he might as well run away like this. Luckily, he had gone out today, or he wouldn't even know how he died otherwise. Yemo just wanted to go into the restaurant when a woman with hair covering her face ran towards him. He was shook and was about to use his flying sword, but he immediately noticed that the woman didn't have any killing intent, and there were soldiers around, so if he attacked, people would notice him immediately. Thinking about this, Yemo stopped and let the woman grab his arm. At the same time, Yemo scanned the woman with his spirit sense. She was younger than 30, and there was some ash covering her face and neck. This was an ordinary woman who was weak due to malnutrition. Her hands were coarse, and it was obvious she was a farmer. However, despite her clothes being covered in dirt, she didn't have any bad smell. Instead, he could feel a faint body aroma. She might have put the ash on herself on purpose. "Emo, babe, don't you want me? Why don't you come back? Emo, babe." The woman grabbed Emo and started crying. Her face looked truly sad, and soon, her tears wet her clothes. Emo's face didn't change at all. Did this woman recognize the wrong person? That was impossible. His face was all ruined. There was no way some random Emo babe's face would also be ruined. How did this woman know his name was Emo? Only the U Family Cart Squad knew his name was Emo. Did someone send this woman to test him, or was there some scheme? That wasn't it, right? He had just been there for 3 days. He didn't have any enemies other than Jason. As for Jason, she wouldn't do this. She would just attack him. Most importantly, from her tone, Emo knew that she was really anguished to the extreme. Emo scanned his spirit sense out. He wanted to know who set this up. He didn't believe that he looked exactly the same as this woman's Emo babe. The people on the streets quickly guessed what was going on. That man must have looked down on his wife after entering the U estate, and so he abandoned her. Now, his wife came to find him in Ci town. Being a servant of the U estate was much better than a farmer. Everyone shook their heads. Although they disapproved of Emo's actions, no one would say anything to a servant of the U family. Emo scanned around and didn't find anything out of the ordinary. But when he saw the soldiers, he suddenly had a good idea. He patted the woman, pulling his shoulders. "Is there no more rice in the family?" And the woman nodded as her stomach grumbled. It was obvious she hadn't eaten for a long time. "I just joined the U estate, so let's go in and eat something and then talk when we get back." Then, Emo pulled the woman into the restaurant. The onlookers saw Emo get back with his wife, and they all clapped. But in one corner of the street, a triangular-eyed man looked hatefully at Emo and sneered. "Big brother?" The waiter saw Emo bring his wife in and quickly came to greet them. Emo said, "Get me a quiet room. We haven't seen each other for a long time. We need to talk. Bring your best food and wine." "No problem." The waiter was quick to act. But Emo noticed that the woman's eyes were a little worried, and he began to suspect her. Did she knew that he wasn't that Emo babe of hers or not? After the waiter left, Emo looked at the girl and asked, "Something happened to me, so I lost a lot of memories. Am I really your Emo babe, or did you remember wrongly?" The woman looked worried, and just when she wanted to talk, the doors were opened, and the waiter brought in a jug of tea. The triangular-eyed man looked into the door. When he saw Emo and that woman, he left casually. The woman saw the man and was clearly shook. She immediately said, "Yes, I wouldn't remember wrongly. You're my Emo babe. 3 years ago, you said you were going out to do business, but you never came back. Today I came to the town and happened to meet you. I wouldn't have looked dash." The woman couldn't even keep talking anymore as her teeth started chattering. Emo understood that that should be related to that man. But at least now, he had gotten another identity. If this woman firmly stood by him as his wife, then he would be able to leave the town with her. Emo nodded calmly. "I said I lost my memories, so I can't remember a lot of things from before. Tell me a bit more." "I feel you're right too, but my memories are really a blur." Emo's tone was calm, and the woman gradually calmed down. She cleared her thoughts and recounted. She was called Mu Xiaoyun. 3 years ago, her hometown experienced a big calamity. Starvation and chaos separated her from all her family. But before she was about to die, she was taken in by an auntie from her husband's side. Their family also fell victim to the calamity, so the family left their town and came to Huangping village. By the time they did, due to the spreading of starvation and plagues, only her grandma and husband Emo Yushin remained. Emo Yushin was a scholar, but due to the hunger and destitution, he could no longer stay in the family, so he left 3 years ago. Emo found out about this man who had abandoned even his mom, much less his fiancée. She was left to take care of the mother, but her mother-in-law always said her son must have died, and that it was due to her holding him back, so she always beat and cursed at Mu Xiaoyun. However, Since Mu Xiaoyun felt that her life had been saved by the in-law family, she kept looking after her mother-in-law until she died not too long ago. Looking at the crying Mu Xiaoyun, although he wasn't too sure if she had really recognized him as her husband, he could feel how bitter her life had been and that she didn't even long after this husband too much. Probably, when she left the village after her mother-in-law died, she must have been hunted by that man. She came to him possibly due to two reasons. One reason could be that he really looked like that emo babe of hers. Another was that he was wearing the Yu family servant clothes, so he wouldn't fear that triangular-eyed man. If it was the second reason, then she thought she could run if she just scared the triangular-eyed man away. But what she didn't predict was that the triangular-eyed man would follow them to the restaurant hotel instead. After guessing this much, Yimo wouldn't ask how she had recognized him. This identity just fell from the sky for free, after all. He patted his head and said, "Oh, so I'm Mo Yushin. Sigh, when I left to do business, I was smacked in the head and lost a lot of memories. Xiaoyun, it's been really hard on you these few years. Don't worry, when I quit my job at the Yu family, I will go back with you immediately." Chapter 697. Checking Identity. Chapter 697. Checking Identity. Hearing that Mo would be going back with her, Mu Xiaoyun got worried. She quickly waved her hand. "Mo dear, you don't need to go back. It's hard to find a job like that, so I'll just come to visit you. You can stay here, and I'll go back myself. I'll come visit you later." Looking at Mu Xiaoyun's expression, Mo got confused. So did she really think he was her husband? At that moment, the waiter brought the food over. He was just using her anyways, and besides, she seemed like a decent person, so Mo would give her some wealth before he left. He might not have any coins, but he had a few 100 tons of gold. Mu Xiaoyun's eyes opened wide when she looked at the table of food. Mo knew that she must be very hungry, so he picked up some chopsticks and said, "Let's dig in. We can talk as we eat." Mu Xiaoyun didn't pick up her chopsticks, but said after staring for a long time, "Mo dear, isn't this table of food worth a lot of money? Are we being too wasteful?" Mo didn't expect her to be thinking about that now and coughed. I've earned quite some money these years, so don't worry, eat all you like." Seeing that Mo really didn't mind, Mu Xiaoyun carefully picked up her chopsticks and started eating. At first, the dinner was very quiet. Mo didn't know what Mu Xiaoyun's plans were, and he didn't want to expose himself by talking too much, so he rarely spoke. Mu Xiaoyun didn't speak at all. She would wait after Mo ate every dish before eating it herself. She seemed very tense and nervous. Mo was soon full. Although Mu Xiaoyun ate quite well too, there were many leftovers. As Mo scanned his spirit sense out, he noticed there were more and more soldiers. Many people wanting to go out of town were stopped. It was obvious he would have no way of going out today. "Let's go." Mo stood up. He wanted to take Mu Xiaoyun back to the Yu estate. Mu Xiaoyun looked at the leftovers and hesitated for a long time before asking, "Should we take back the leftovers?" Mo thought, if Mu Xiaoyun were really just using me, she wouldn't ask about such a thing. She would just find an opportunity to run. Suddenly, the doors opened, and another man in Yu estate manager clothing appeared at the door. He saw Mo and Mu Xiaoyun and breathed easy, emoing, "Luckily you're here, I've been looking for you. Young Miss wants to see you, but she couldn't find you." Mo just wanted to go to the Yu estate anyway, so he quickly said, "Oh, then I'll go back immediately. I just ate here. You can pay for the food first. I'll be going ahead. Xiaoyun, let's go." Then, Mo pulled Mu Xiaoyun out before the man could react. When he realized what was going on, the man saw the waiter waiting for him to pay. "Mo dear, why don't I wait for you outside?" Mu Xiaoyun saw the grandiose-looking Yu estate and didn't dare go in with Mo. So Mo pulled her, "Let's go in together. It's dangerous outside now." Mu Xiaoyun didn't say anything and followed behind Mo carefully. "Moing, where did you go? Didn't I tell you not to walk around everywhere? The young miss took you in to do things for her, not for you to wander around freely." A servant berated. Mu Xiaoyun shivered from this. Mo looked coldly at him and said, "Piss off. I was hired by the young miss with a high price. If you dare talk anymore sh*t, I'll kick you out of here." The servant didn't know Yimo yet, so he didn't dare speak anymore. After a while, he said, "The young miss told you to go to the guest hall. With that, I've passed the message." Then the servant quickly turned and left. Yimo's spirit sense scanned into the hall and saw two men wearing official clothing in the middle of recording something. That young miss was also inside. Yimo immediately understood that they were checking identities. Thinking about this, Yimo pulled Mu Xiaoyun and said, "Xiaoyun, let's go." Seeing Yimo bring back a woman, the young miss frowned but soon returned to normal. She looked at Yimo and said, "Imoing, these two officials have some questions to ask you. You need to answer honestly." When Yimo saw the red-clothed man, he knew he was in danger. The man had Earth-level peak power. It would be very hard for Yimo to escape now if he blew his cover. The red-clothed man asked Yimo, "What's your name? Where do you come from? What do you do?" "My original name is Imo Yusheng, and due to a disaster in my hometown, I fled to Huangping village 3 years ago. However, because there was nothing to eat in the house, I changed my name to Imoing and went out to do business. Just as I came back, I was robbed by bandits. Soon after, I was saved by young Miss Yu on the road, and so I have become a servant of the Yu estate now. I lost my money in phase 2, so I was too ashamed to go back to see my family. I didn't expect my wife to come find me here in Cishi town." Yimo's reply was simple but didn't have any real content. Before the red-clothed man could say anything, young Miss Yu added, "I met Imoing at Hangshui half a year ago. His business was going well, but Yimo didn't know why this woman helped him, and he didn't know where Hangshui was either, but he wasn't going to point that out." Mu Xiaoyun was confused. She was sure Yimo must have lied at least once, but she wouldn't blow his cover no matter what. "Oh, what's your wife called?" the red-clothed man asked expressionlessly. "Mu Xiaoyun," Yimo replied. "Search Mu Xiaoyun, and get me a drawing of Mu Xiaoyun and Imo Yusheng," the red-clothed man ordered. "Yes." The man on the side went out and carried back many stacks of books. Yimo was shook. How was he going to pretend he was Imo Yusheng now? There were paintings of them. Yimo thought rapidly. What if they found out he wasn't Imo Yusheng? It was impossible to fly away, but if he couldn't do that, that Earth-level peak would be quite heavy for him to take on. If he was lucky, he would maybe manage to run out of the town. But what then? The identity system here was clearly strict. Even if he left the town, where would he go? Deep in the woods? Even if he did, it would probably be hard for him to escape. If that really happened, he could only run and leave Mu Xiaoyun behind. It didn't take long for the book and their paintings to be found. The red-clothed man looked at the painting and nodded. "Put it away." Yimo was shook because his spirit sense had picked up that the man on the painting looked around 80% like him. If his face wasn't so ruined, perhaps it would be easy to tell he wasn't Imo Yusheng. But with the injuries, the differences were destroyed. No wonder Mu Xiaoyun thought he was her husband. Yimo heaved a sigh of relief, and he received a white card indicating that he had been checked. Young Miss Yu glanced at Yimo and Mu Xiaoyun and said plainly, "Go down to rest. I will see you tomorrow." A maid took Mu Xiaoyun to shower. Although Mu Xiaoyun said she didn't want to go, Yimo felt that she actually did. When she came back, Yimo found that Mu Xiaoyun was actually prettier than that young Miss Yu. With her tattered clothes and dirt covering her face, Yimo hadn't given her too much attention, but when she was washed clean, although her hands were still coarse, her face was very pretty, and the chest she had constrained before now filled up her clothes like 2 fat rabbits. Chapter 698. Woman Who Needs to Sleep with Someone. Chapter 698. Woman Who Needs to Sleep with Someone. Mu Xiaoyun had washed up, but she hadn't changed into new clothes. She was still wearing her old clothes with many patches here and there. Yet the coarse dress she had on was like the dress of a goddess, showcasing her beauty. The first thing Yimo thought about was Luoing. When he saw Luoing wearing a coarse dress in that house back then, she also seemed like a goddess. Although Mu Xiaoyun wasn't as pretty as Luoing, she made Yimo think of Luoing. His eyes were full of longing, and he decided he should go back and reunite with them as early as possible. Mu Xiaoyun saw Yimo's eyes soften down and have a look of longing. She immediately looked happy and surprised. She was just a village woman, but she could read the emotions in Yemo's eyes. But soon, a woman's sensitivity made her realize that her Emo babe wasn't longing for her. Although he was looking at her, his eyes weren't focused on her. It was clear he was thinking about another woman. Mu Xiaoyun looked down with a sliver of despair flashing across her eyes. She was a traditional woman, and although her mother-in-law and husband weren't nice to her, she still didn't think of running away. After a long while, Yemo came back to his senses and looked at Mu Xiaoyun with a frown. He didn't ask her where the blood gash on her neck came from. After all, he wasn't her real husband. Still, although she recognized him wrongly, he would still tell her when he left. What made Yemo feel strange was that she didn't change into the new clothes. But Yemo didn't ask. He wasn't very curious. She had her reasons for not changing. He didn't need to ask. Emo babe, Mu Xiaoyun wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. Yemo smiled. Sit down first. Say what you want. Do you want to go back? If you want to go back, that's fine. After a couple of days pass, and the security stops being so strict, you can go back. No, Mu Xiaoyun waved her hand. I don't dare go back alone, but I don't feel too comfortable living here. After all, just say what you want to say. No need to hesitate, Yemo said. Mu Xiaoyun quickly said, this is the Yu estate after all, and Emo babe is a part of the Yu estate. But if I also started living here, I don't think the owner would be happy. Yemo understood now. She was scared that his job wasn't stable and that if she stayed there too, people would get jealous and he might lose his job. And although she wanted to leave because of that, she was scared of that triangular-eyed man. Yemo smiled. He couldn't really stay and work at the Yu estate. When these people left, he would leave the Yu estate immediately. He knew that young Miss Yu hadn't brought him there to be a servant anyway. Don't worry, stay here for now. I will send you back in time. Yemo still wanted to say something when young Miss Yu's personal maid came over. She stood at the door and looked disgustedly at Yemo, but still said gently, Yemoing, our young miss invites you over. Mu Xiaoyun heard this and quickly got up carefully. Yemo smiled to her. Don't worry, you can wait for me here. Then, he left with the maid. Mu Xiaoyun looked at Yemo leaving, and a look of confusion appeared in her eyes. She felt her husband had changed a lot from before. Her husband used to be very bleak and rarely talked in the past, but now he seemed very open and didn't seem to care about anything. The main thing was that he lied to at least one person, either her or the red-clothed man. He told the red-clothed man he lost his money, so he was too ashamed to go back, but he told her that he was knocked on the head and lost his memories. And in the restaurant, he said he earned a lot, but now, he said his money was robbed. His stories were contradicting. Mu Xiaoyun shook her head and sat by the bed. No matter what, she liked the current Emo babe better. Although his face was ruined, it was much better than that bleak face. Yemo didn't expect for him to be taken to that young Miss Yu's bedroom. In the olden times, it was inappropriate to do so. I'm Yu Yin, and I'm sure you're curious why I brought you here. But for now, come, have a drink with me first. Yu Yin pointed at the dishes and bottle of wine on the table. Yemo didn't ask anything. Even if she tried to poison him, he wasn't scared, but he was sure she wouldn't. Seeing that Yemo didn't ask anything and sat down to pour himself a cup, Yu Yin looked satisfied and raised her cup, Emoing, drink? Yemo smiled, and every time Yu Yin asked to drink, he drank. Soon, one bottle of wine was gone, but Yu Yin took out another bottle. Yemo saw this and realized that she wanted to get him drunk. Although he didn't know why she was doing this, Yemo started to slur his speech. At this moment, Yemo utilized the opportunity to ask about the Shangqing Mountain and Qiankuan sect. Yu Yin had a sliver of contempt and disgust in her eyes, but she still replied smilingly, Shangqing Mountain is a subordinate sect of the Qiankuan sect. Shangqing sect's core disciples are people even the Lianhua city lord wouldn't dare to offend. Yemo was shook. He thought of the Luo sisters. Luo Fei had never mentioned that they had such a high status in the inner hidden sections. What Yemo didn't know was that these important sect members spent most of their time in cultivation and rarely came to the outside world to show off. So since you're about to enter Shangqing Mountain, your status must be very high. Yemo asked. Yu Yin looked pridefully and said, although that is the case, I'm still only an outer sect disciple for now. But with my talent, it's only a matter of time before I enter the inner sect. Is it very hard to join them? Then wouldn't it be even harder to join Tai? Do you know where Tai is? Yimo immediately asked. Yu Yuyin got even more contemptuous. Yimo wanted to join Tai? Who did he think he was? But Yu Yuyin still replied, every 3 years, the big sects take in disciples. Unless you become a member of the hidden sects, you will never know where it is. No disciples dare to reveal the location of the sect, or they would be killed. Of course, if you want to join the selection, in the beginning of next month at Hangshui City is where they will be taking in disciples. Yimo looked strangely at her. Since the selection process hasn't begun yet, how come you're already an outer sect member? Because I have an outer sect member spot card, I don't need to go to the selection. I can just enter just like that, Yuyin said as she poured Yimo some wine again. After that, Yimo realized that she probably didn't know much more. He started to act drunk. Emoing, I've had a good impression of you ever since I first saw you, and I believe this is love on first sight. Don't you think so too? Tonight, I'll sleep with you. Seeing that Yimo was drunk enough, Yuyin whispered into Yimo's ears gently. Yimo sneered. But he really didn't expect that after he collapsed onto the table, she would carry him to her bed and start undressing him. When she had taken off everything except for his underwear, Yimo felt creeped out. If she was going to take off his undies too, then he would stop her even if it meant exposing himself. Luckily, the woman didn't do that and just pressed Yimo's sturdy chest as she murmured to herself, "Is every man's chest this sturdy?" She blushed and started undressing herself too. Chapter 699. Ruthless. Chapter 699. Ruthless Yu Yuyin took off her top soon and just left her innermost pink layer on. She stopped there, though, as Yimo had expected. Yimo wouldn't mind if she took it all off. Then, Yu Yuyin quickly sat on the bed and started cultivating, not caring that Yimo was on her bed at all. This made Yimo very confused. 10 minutes later, Yimo scanned with his spirit sense and felt that she was really cultivating indeed. Seeing that she didn't do anything to him, Yimo couldn't be bothered keeping his attention on her. He took out a spirit stone and started recovering his chi as he ran meridian cycles. Yimo gradually went into a meditative state and forgot about Yu Yuyin beside him. After some time, Yimo suddenly felt some softness press against him. When he woke up, his chi was flowing more freely. Yimo estimated that if he used another lotus petal with a spirit stone, he would be able to recover in about 2 to 3 days. He might even become a little stronger. As he was now, he would already be able to go away with invisibility magic. Yu Yuyin was also doing inner chi cultivation, and Yimo understood what was going on. While he used the spirit stone to cultivate, he spilled some spirit chi. This woman really knew how to pick the right moment. She seemed to notice that she was cultivating much faster than before while leaning on him. So she came over to steal some spirit chi. Thinking about this, he put his spirit stone away without hesitation. He didn't have enough for himself. How could he give it away? Yimo spread his spirit sense out and noticed that it was day. Just when he wanted to get up, a group of people came in from the outside. The leading person was a man younger than 30. His skin was a little dark. He wasn't short, but his eyes were looking up in a perceivably arrogant way. This was a self-centered guy, but he seemed to have a high status. He had 2 bodyguards behind him and another middle-aged man with him. The middle-aged man looked like Yu Yuyin. He was probably a member of Yu Yuyin's family. Yimo knew one of the 2 guards. It was the one who threatened to kill him on the road. Liao Wei came from this far away. How come Yu Yuyin is still not up? The middle-aged man was seemingly reproaching the maids, but it was clear that he was calling Yu Yuyin out. The middle-aged man said again, "How about we drink some tea in the guest hall for now? This girl is really something." Yu Yuyin smiled and didn't seem to mind. One of the maids quickly ran to Yu Yuyin's room, while the other maid said worriedly, "Last night, young miss drank a little too much." Then, she seemed to realize she said something she shouldn't have and quickly covered her mouth. Yu Yuyin drank last night? Why did she drink? Liao Wei frowned and asked. The maid got more worried and said with a stutter, Not young miss, it's that emoing. He wanted to drink with her last night. No dash before she finished. Liao Wei already charged into Yu Yin's room. The middle-aged man's face changed drastically, and he followed quickly. Yimo saw this with his spirit sense and sneered. He was used by this Yu Yin indeed, but he didn't care. As that maid knocked on the door, Yu Yin didn't get up but instead squeezed herself into Yimo's arms. She even pulled her lingerie down and made her hair messy. Bang! Liao Wei charged into the room. Yu Yin suddenly got up, and when she saw Liao Wei, her face looked terrified and worried. She quickly covered her chest. Yimo sneered and got up, dressing himself in composure. A robust man with a messy-haired woman had clearly spent the night on the same bed. Even an idiot would know what they did. You. Liao Wei pointed at Yu Yin and spat out blood. Then he fainted. You, disgraceful thing. The middle-aged man was also furious at Yu Yin. He looked at Yimo and sneered. Get out now. Yu Yin looked at Yimo and felt strange. Usually, in this situation, that emoing should be worried and say that it had nothing to do with him. Why was he acting so calm? If Yimo said it had nothing to do with him, then she could use that to blame Yimo for being irresponsible and have him killed. But he didn't say anything which made her feel unsettled instead. Soon, Yimo and Yu Yin were taken to the garden outside. Liao Wei had recovered by then, but his face was green, and his veins were bulging. He looked hatefully at Yu Yin and Yimo. The middle-aged man seemed very defeated. He seemed 100 years older and asked powerlessly, Yu Yin, you've been well educated as a girl, and Liao Wei is a dragon amongst men. Is he no match for you? Why did you do such a thing? You slept with a servant? Tell me, how could you do this? Tell me. The middle-aged man's face was turning paler and paler, but Yimo was laughing inside. This middle-aged man practically looked like he wanted to commit suicide on the outside, but his heart was calm, and he wasn't angry at all. It was such a waste this father and daughter didn't go to Hollywood. You're emoing, right? You're a mere servant, yet you dare do this to your master. Pull him out and beat him to death. The middle-aged man yelled. Don't hurt my husband. Before Yimo could talk, Mu Xiaoyan ran out from somewhere and hugged Yimo, dragging him away from the two servants who were about to take him away. Yimo didn't care anymore. He had his new identity, and his qi had recovered almost by half. If it wasn't that he didn't want to cause too much trouble, he would just kill these yellow levels and go. Your husband? Do you know what he did? He dared seduce the young miss and do such immoral things. There's no need to keep such shameless people in the world. Come, kill him and lock his wife up too. A cold woman's voice sounded. It was a woman in her 40s. Please, don't harm my husband. I'll be your servant, please. Mu Xiaoyun was about to kneel. Her eyes were full of horror, but Yimo pulled her back and stopped her. He thought Mu Xiaoyun didn't care about him. He didn't expect her to care about him this much. Mother! Yu Yin cried out as she saw the woman. That's enough. Liao Wei yelled and stared coldly at Yu Yin. Yu Yin, what did our Liao family do wrong to you? What did I do wrong to you? We gave you a Shangqing Mountain Disciple card as the marriage gift, yet you're such a disloyal woman. You slept with an ugly servant. Yu Yin bowed to Liao Wei and sniffed. Sorry, Dash. Liao Wei laughed and pointed at her. No need to say sorry to me. Give me the card back. Yu Yin sniffed and said, Sorry, brother Liao. I was just stupid for that moment. I still love you, and you can do whatever you want emoing. If I could, I would give you back the card right now and be a servant of the Liao family to pay for my sins. But alas, I already gave the card to Shangqing Mountain. Yimo finally understood what was going on now. This Yu Yin looked innocent, but she sure was ruthless and heartless. If she didn't meet him, she would have found someone else to sacrifice for sure. Suddenly, that guard whispered something to Liao Wei. He said that Yu Yin and the servant had long since been together. Hearing this, Liao Wei's face turned awful. Yimo couldn't help but applaud this woman for her schemes. Chapter 700. What to do? Chapter 700. What to do? Yu Yin wasn't old, but her heart was so cold. A stranger's life was worth nothing in her eyes. She was casually going to hand in his life to Liao Wei for punishment. You be asterisk tsh. Give me the Shangqing Mountain card back. It's the Liao family's item. I don't care who you gave it to now. Give it back at once. Liao Wei's voice was shaking with anger. Yu Yuyan said shakily, Brother Liao, I already gave the card to Shangqing Mountain. If you want me to take it back, I will. Liao Wei almost fainted again. It was impossible to get it back after giving the card to Shangqing Mountain. If Yu Yuyan asked for it, the entire Liao family would suffer. Yimo suddenly had a strong sense of disgust for this woman. This woman reminded him of the Dongfang brothers. I will annihilate the Yu family. Liao Wei was so angry that he didn't care about what he said. Yu Yuyan sneered, but didn't reply. Everyone else from the Yu family was also calm. Liao Wei's guard said to him, the Yu family has a Shangqing Mountain disciple now. Young master, let's go back and think of another way to make them pay. The only thing Yimo didn't get was why Yu Yuyan had done this to get what she wanted. This way she had lost face as a woman. Did it not matter to women here? As though he understood that the guard was right, Liao Wei realized that he couldn't do anything to Yu Yuyan. He soon remembered Yimo, the main culprit. Liao Shan, break that Imo guy's legs. Liao Wei transferred his anger towards Yimo. Mu Xiaoyun was going to kneel down and beg for her husband's life again. Mu Xiaoyun caught Liao Wei's attention. She was much prettier than Yu Yuyan. Although she was wearing coarse clothes, if she stood next to Yu Yuyan would only seem like a maid. Liao Wei's eyes didn't move. He stared at Mu Xiaoyun for a long time before reacting. Even his anger was partly gone. Okay, but you need to come with me. Liao Wei felt more and more that Mu Xiaoyun was the girl he wanted. Compared to Mu Xiaoyun, Yu Yuyan was scum. No. Mu Xiaoyun began to worry. She had been covering her real beauty and living in the countryside, so she hadn't had trouble. When she saw her husband, she stopped covering her face. But now, problems arised. Mu Xiaoyun subconsciously grabbed Yimo's sleeve. Liao Wei's expression sunk. If you stay with this ugly and poor husband, you will never be able to enjoy life. Our Liao family is a big family in the Lianhua city. I won't treat you poorly. If you follow me, you can enjoy my wealth. However, if you don't want to come, I will still take you away and kill your husband. Although Yu Yuyan had planned to break this marriage, she couldn't help to suddenly feel uneasy. He cared about her sleeping one night with another guy, but he didn't mind that at all in Imo Ying's wife's case. Mu Xiaoyun had slept by Imo Ying's every day. Why didn't he care? Yu Yuyan subconsciously looked at Mu Xiaoyun, realizing how pretty she was. Not even she was as pretty as her. So that was it. Yu Yuyan's expression had sunk too, but it soon returned to normal. She sniffed, Brother Liao, Imo Ying is our servant. You can take his wife. Take it as a compensation. Ha ha ha. Yuyan Marshall's sister, I arrived a few days late. What is the compensation? A young handsome man carrying a long sword walked inside. Yimo saw the words Shangqing embroidered in the corner of his clothes. When Yu Yuyan saw this man, she immediately became excited and walked to him quickly. She called his name, Marshal Brother Guan. The man didn't seem to care about the people around and approached her saying, Marshal Sister Yuyan, how was the trick I taught you? Thank you, Marshal Brother Guan. Yu Yuyan thanked him. Love was written all over her eyes. But they couldn't have expected that Yimo could hear their words. Yimo realized that this Marshal Brother Guan wanted to be with Marshal Sister Yuyan. Hence, they planned it so that Liao Wei, that idiot, would forfeit the marriage. It's Marshal Brother Guan from Shangqing. Not even Liao Wei could keep up his ego now. Yimo smiled in this moment. Everyone, although you saw me sleeping naked with Yu Yan, you can't blame me. Everybody was looking at him strangely, and Yimo said once again, to be honest, Yu Yan is indebted to me. Still, I don't blame her for treating me like this. When she was pregnant in Hangshui, despite not knowing who the father of the child was, I still helped her get an abortion. After she got the abortion, she slept with me for a while. Yu Yan, it's not like I didn't pay you. I gave you all the money I made from my business. Although you only slept with me for a little more than a month, I didn't blame you. I have something to tell to the other businessmen. Hearing this, Yu Yuyan's face turned green. Her lips started to shake, but she was so angry she couldn't say anything. How could she not be angry when Yemo had said all of that in front of the person she really liked? When Marshal Brother Guan heard this, he sneered and left. Liao Wei's expression looked even worse. He hadn't expected his fiancée to not only sleep with Yemo, but to also have had an abortion. Everyone in the room was shocked. Let's go, Xiaoyun. Yemo quickly left the place before everyone could react. Quick, quick. Don't let that woman get away. Lian Shan, bring her back. Liao Wei reacted. Yu Yuan's face was pale. She had been publicly called to be a broken shoe, and to have had an abortion in front of Marshal Brother Guan. She didn't expect to get tricked by an insect. Yemo quickly took Mu Xiaoyun out of Ci town. He decided not to stay at the Yu family anymore because he knew if he did, he would have to slaughter people. It wasn't good for him yet. Yemo believed that even if they left the town, Liao Wei would still chase them. Where do you want to go? Yemo asked. Mo, babe, do you still have money? Mu Xiaoyun hesitated and asked. Yemo nodded. I have a lot of gold coins. Do you need some? Yemo was thinking of finding a place to swap some gold for gold coins. Mu Xiaoyun quickly said, No, when mother died, she owed people some money. I want to pay it back and then leave Huangping with you. I'll go wherever you go. It was fine if they went back to Huangping. Yemo was sure that a lot of people would chase them there, but he would just kill them. However, if Mu Xiaoyun was to leave with him, it would be troublesome. He wasn't her husband, and it was inconvenient to take her with him. Xiaoyun, my name is tarnished. I even had an affair with you, Yu Yin. You're still willing to go with me? Yemo asked helplessly. Mu Xiaoyun nodded. Yes, you're my husband. Where will I go if I don't go with you? I know that young Miss is lying. What's more, even if she wasn't, what's that got to do with you? She's the one being a slut. Yemo was speechless. What kind of logic was this? What was he going to do if she insisted on staying with him? Leave secretly? Chapter 701. A place to spread ashes. Chapter 701. A place to spread ashes. There were about 30 families in Huangping village, but it was much larger than in Li village as the houses were spread out. Mu Xiaoyun lived near the edge of the village in a house built from hay and earth. There were also 2 brick houses not far from her house. Yemo followed to the door of the hay house, and a dark-skinned woman came out from that brick house. When she saw Mu Xiaoyun and Yemo, she was dazed when she saw a different Mu Xiaoyun. Ani you! Mu Xiaoyun called out. The middle-aged woman came back to her senses and said in shock, Xiaoyun, you're this pretty when you wash your face clean. This is the first time I've seen a girl as pretty as you, Xiaoyun. But who is this? Mu Xiaoyun immediately said, Ani you, this is my husband Mo. He went out to do business and just came back, but he was robbed on the way back. I went to Ci town this time and happened to see him there. Oh, right. I wouldn't have even recognized Mr. Mo if you didn't tell me. It's good you came back, Mr. Mo. You don't know how much hardship Xiaoyun went through when you weren't at home. She fell from the roof so many times. Sigh. Auntie you sighed. Yemo felt confused. Why did she fall from the roof? But he immediately realized the house was a straw bale house. If the hay eroded away, she would need to go up and replace it. Auntie you, my husband is back now, so I repay you the money I owe you, Mu Xiaoyun quickly said. No rush, no rush, you still haven't eaten yet. I'll get you something. Auntie you felt happy for the two. Mu Xiaoyun quickly said, Auntie you, don't. My husband took me to a restaurant, and there's still food at home too. Oh, if that's the case, okay, then I won't disturb you too. Auntie you put on an understanding look. Yemo understood what Mu Xiaoyun's words meant. He came back with her with nothing in his hands, and this Auntie you could tell he wasn't doing too well and gave him pitiful looks. Mu Xiaoyun noticed this and quickly said they went to a restaurant together to save his face. Such an understanding woman. Yemo sighed. This woman was a wife any man would want on earth. Mo Yushin was really lucky, yet he abandoned a wife like this and left. The straw house was very simple. There were 2 rooms, an outer room with a stove and some simple daily items, and an inner room with a bed and nothing else. The smell of some herbs came from the inside. Just when Yemo wanted to go see what herbs she was collecting, Mu Xiaoyun said, Mo dear, rest for a while. I will go heat some water and make you something to eat. Mu Xiaoyun made Yimo sit down and started to cook. Yimo sighed at the busy Mu Xiaoyun. Even if he was to leave, he would take her away from here and find a safe place for her to live. Huangping village was calm, but the Yu family and Liao Wei knew they were here. If he left, they would come to her looking for trouble. But Yimo was quickly made to understand that the trouble was already there. Far away, he saw 3 men walk into the village. Yimo could tell that they were sent by Yu Yuyan. Yimo got up and looked at Mu Xiaoyun. When I did business outside, I bought some things for you, and now some guys came to bring it here. I'll go pick it up, wait for me. Mu Xiaoyun was confused hearing this, but then she saw 3 strangers walking over and Yimo walked towards them. She looked worriedly at Yimo. Yimo came up to the 3, and before they said anything, he took out a gold bar and said, "Don't disturb my wife. Listen, I found a gold cave, and there are lots of gold bricks just like this one there. As long as you agree not to enter my house, I can take you fellas there." The 3 were shocked by the gold brick. After a while, a man grabbed the gold brick and knocked on it. Then he uttered in shock, "Such pure gold." But Yimo put the gold brick back in his clothes. "What are you waiting for? Hurry up and tell us where it is, quick." One yellow-toothed man ushered desperately. They could always kill this guy later and grab that Mu Xiaoyun after they got the gold. Mu Xiaoyun saw that the 3 left quickly and heaved a sigh of relief. Hermo Babe had really bought her something. Although he hadn't been back, he had remembered her. Mu Xiaoyun felt sweet. "He's different from before," Mu Xiaoyun said to herself. "Xiaoyun, where's your husband?" Ani Yu brought over a bowl of dumplings and saw Mu Xiaoyun standing by her home by herself. Mu Xiaoyun said with a face of bliss, "My husband went out and earned some money doing business, and he got someone to send some things back. He's picking up those things now. Ani Yu, thank you for giving dumplings." "Xiaoyun, don't say that. It's good that your husband is capable, though. Sigh. A good girl like you was, all due to a bad mother-in-law. Sigh, let's not talk about this. By the way, what business did your husband do?" Ani asked. Just when she wanted to say something, more women came out chattering. "Xiaoyun, your husband is rich now? Xiaoyun, you're this pretty. How come you always covered your face with dirt?" Those 3 men took Yimo to the exit of the village, where Yimo saw Liao Shan's 2 other bodyguards. It seemed that they had been waiting there. The 3 men explained to Liao Shan what happened. Liao Shan heard this and looked rather in doubt. Yimo knew what he wanted to say, so he took out his gold brick and waved it. "Hurry up and come with me." Then, Yimo turned and left. Liao Shan's eyes lit up immediately when he saw that gold brick. This was the first time he had seen a gold brick that big. He followed Yimo quickly. The remaining 5 also followed quickly. Soon, they came to a barren place in the village. "Imo, this is the gold cave you're talking about?" Imo Shan looked at this barren, far-off place and frowned. Imo smiled. "This isn't a gold cave. It's the place where your bones will be buried. It's not a bad place, right? Pity that Liao Wei didn't come. To be honest, I really think it's troublesome to go out and kill him separately. You're asking to die." One guard pulled out his sword and wanted to cut off Yimo's arm. F*CKU. You dare trick us? Cut off his arms first. Liao Shan said. Yimo sneered and threw 5 fireballs, and other than Liao Shan, all the men were burned to a crisp. However, the coins they had on them seemed to have grown wings as they flew into Yimo's hand. Then, Yimo spoke slowly to Liao Shan. "Sorry, I was wrong. This isn't the place where your bones will be buried. It's the place where your ashes will be spread." Liao Shan looked at the pile of ashes in terror and froze. Chapter 702. Mu Xiaoyun's Husband. Chapter 702. Mu Xiaoyun's Husband, do you know why I didn't kill you? Yimo looked at Liao Shan and smiled. Liao Shan's teeth chattered. He couldn't even speak properly. There had been no heaven-shattering battle nor a bloody scene, but Liao Shan felt terror in his bones. He was a yellow-level warrior of the Liao family and had even seen Earth-level masters fight more than once, but he had never seen such maniac means. He had merely waved his hand, and a person turned to dust. Such a powerful person had been beat and gotten quite heavy injuries. Who could be stronger than him? This was beyond his comprehension. What shook him even more was that a chair suddenly appeared in the young man's hand, and he sat down. "Chimbe, if you have any questions, just ask. Just ask." Liao Shan finally understood why Yemo hadn't killed him. Although he couldn't be sure that he would survive if he answered, he knew that if he didn't, he would be turned to dust straight away. If he had known that Yemo was this strong, he would have rather betrayed the Liao family than to go against Yemo. "Tell me about the main sects of the magical continent. Which position is higher than a city lord's? And where is Tai sect? How do I get in?" Yemo asked. When Liao Shan heard this, he started shaking even more. You're that man level 1 hidden sects are looking for. The man level 1 hidden sects were looking for? Yemo realized that Jiesun was hunting him indeed. As though he realized that Yemo didn't know what it was, Liao Shan said, "There are 3 levels in the hidden sects hierarchy. The highest is level 1. If a searching order is given, then no matter where you are, people will come to find you. Only those from the 3 biggest sects can give a level 1 order, so those hunted are almost always caught." Yemo sneered. "Answer the questions I asked before." Yes, Liao Shan quickly said. Half an hour later, Yemo finally understood what was going on. The rulers of the magical continent were the hidden sections. Each of these sects controlled one or many cities, and these cities provided resources and fresh blood for the sections. The bigger the sect, the more cities it could control. Small towns and cities also had to provide resources to the big cities to survive. When a sect got strong to a certain extent, it could devour another sect as long as it was stronger than the other sect. Many small sects and powerful people either controlled smaller areas or had become subordinates of a stronger entity. Hangshui was a public city and wasn't ruled by anyone. Many powerful entities had their business and commercial land there. This place was also the place with the densest population. The land there was also absurdly priced. Not everyone could get into the inner hidden sections. People outside only had a chance when these sects looked for disciples in Hangshui. Once you became a disciple of an inner hidden sect, you could go to the people from the sect in Hangshui. It was impossible to find the sect on your own. If someone got a disciple card, then they could just get in without being tested. The card was usually given to a powerful group or person when they made a huge contribution to the sect. Yemo also understood why the Liao family had given the card to Yu Yen. Although the Liao family had the card, no one in the family had enough talent. Although the requirements were lower than for a normal entry, the person still had to have some talent. Liao Wei had happened to like Yu Yen, and her talent wasn't enough to get in through the normal entry, but it was enough with the card. So, the Liao and Yu family got together and decided to give the card to Yu Yen, with the condition that she had to marry Liao Wei. But Yu Yen had taken the card and then broken the deal. After that, Yemo couldn't get anything more out of Liao Shan, so he burned him down too. Yemo had gotten 33 gold coins, 250 silver coins, and more than 500 bronze coins from killing 6 people. Yemo didn't know how much it was worth. Still, most of the gold coins came from Liao Shan, so it was probably worth something. With this money, Yemo was no longer in a rush to exchange his gold bricks for coins. Yemo took out 2 big sacks and placed the food and water he had prepared inside. Then, he went back to Huangping village. Although the 3 golden scripts were on Yemo, he didn't dare take them out. Who knew what phenomena they could cause when they were together? If they revealed where he was over. Quite a lot of people had come over and asked Mu Xiaoyan about all sorts of things, but her mind was somewhere else. She stood at the door, constantly looking to see if Yemo was back. She was deeply worried that he would leave her there alone again. "Xiaoyan, is that your husband coming back?" A woman saw Yemo carrying 2 bags from afar. Mu Xiaoyan also saw Yemo, so she quickly rushed out to help him carry the things. All the men and women who had come over wanted to see how much wealth her husband had brought. But when they saw Yemo's scarred face and compared it to Mu Xiaoyan's pretty face, they felt she could do better. Luckily, these thoughts were gone the moment they saw what Yemo had brought. He gave the bags to Mu Xiaoyan, and because she had been receiving a lot of help from the villagers, She gave plenty of desserts and famous wines away. Everyone who came got a share. Some people couldn't help to start eating on the spot. The stuff Emo had brought were from the outside, and many people hadn't seen them before. They tasted great. You can have this too, see if it's enough. Emo gave the money bag to Mu Xiaoyun. He didn't know how much things were worth there, and he didn't know how much she owed. If it wasn't enough, he would exchange a gold brick. When Mu Xiaoyun opened the bag, tens of gold coins mixed with hundreds of silver coins immediately flashed in front of everyone's eyes. It was the first time they saw so many gold coins. A strong, healthy rural young person wouldn't be able to earn a gold coin in a year, not even if he was lucky. He would need 2 years or more at least. Yet, Emo had so many and casually gave them all to Mu Xiaoyun. No one there no longer thought Emo wasn't a match for Mu Xiaoyun. Mu Xiaoyun's eyes turned red. She had thought her husband's business money was all gone. Yet he had brought back so much money. Mu Xiaoyun soon repaid her debt with this money. However, the money in the bag was almost untouched. Looking at the eyes of admiration from the villagers, for the first time in a long time, Mu Xiaoyun felt happy and blissful. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.